That's the good stuff.
Welcome back, everybody, to Goodwill Podcasting with Connor, Dan, and Stone, your movie podcast that today is adding yet another legendary director to an episode of the podcast. Today, it is Bong Joon-Ho. Finally, after Parasite in 2019, he has come out with a new film this past weekend, in Mickey 17. Very, very much anticipated by a lot of film fans out there, starring Robert Pattinson. So we're going to discuss that at the end of the episode today. And I just want to say right now, if you're watching online, Dan is not here. It's very exciting where he's at. Can't wait to hear from him in 2 weeks. He's going to be busy for 2 weeks at South by Southwest. So really interested and excited to hear about his experience there because I'm hoping to go next year. But anyways, we have Connor obviously here with us, but we also have a friend of mine who I tried to meet up with. He was so nice to try to meet up with me, and I just couldn't make it happen. I felt like a failure. I'm so sorry, but now you guys get to meet him, and he's fantastic. I mean, one of the nicest guys I've come into contact with through social media, one of the most knowledgeable about film. I mean, you can look on the screen right here and see everything behind him, but actually works somewhat in the industry as well, has short films. Like, we try to bring the best people on to discuss, and I think that our guest today, Van, is going to do a great job with Bong Joon-Ho. Van, welcome to Goodwill Podcasting, my friend.
Thanks for having me. Excited to talk.
I tried. That was a lot. I usually say a lot at the beginning there, so I was trying to how can I connect Van to Bong Joon-Ho? How can I talk about how I met Van, how he's here now? But
I appreciate the hype.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention, but today we're discussing 4 movies altogether. So each of us chose one. And that is Memories of Murder, The Host, and then Okja. So I'm really, really excited to get into those. But Van, I wanted to ask you, was Mickey 17 your most anticipated this year? You got a T-shirt. We'll see what you say, but
this year my most anticipated is probably Avatar: Fire and Ash. So I did love Mickey 17, but it was not my most anticipated.
Okay. I would say, we just got the news from James Cameron. He's maybe 3.5 hour movie, maybe, because I think he said it's going to be longer than The Way of Water, and I saw The Way of Water is like 3 hours and 13 minutes. So.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm there.
Yeah, I'm wondering when the trailer's going to come out, though.
Avatar fan?
What was that?
Are you a big Avatar fan?
I am. I love Avatar. I think I have 5 copies of the first and second one, collectively, but huge Avatar fan. Huge Avatar fan.
I have The Way of Water at a 3-star.
Really? We can dig into that.
that doesn't mean it's a bad movie, though. I have it at 3.5. I have such a hot take when it comes to Avatar: The Way of Water and Avatar films, because I have the first Avatar at a 4.5. I really like it. And I know the thing is it's dances with wolves and all this stuff, Pocahontas, whatever you want to say. I dig it. I think it's simple. I think it introduces you to Pandora really well. I've said this on the podcast before, but Way of Water, I thought the visuals, obviously, and just the scale that James always does is incredible. But the story is just, there's some story beats. I don't like Spider, Sigourney Weaver. I got to see what they do with her.
I'll be honest with you. Spider's probably the weakest part of that movie. But I think ultimately the big thing I like about just The Way of Water is it's the first movie again. It's just the same thing over again. It's familiar. I fell for the member berries. The nostalgia is there.
My biggest issue with number 2 is the fact that I feel no emotions when his son dies.
You see, I was crying.
I was mad at Jake, though. When he said, everyone loves this part, but at the very end where he's like, what does he say? Then let's do it then, right? And he just goes at, what is it, Quaritch, right? He just attacks him. I was like, dude, don't leave. You're gonna put your family in danger. Just leave, man. He's like, no, I'm done with this shit, and just full on fights him. And I was like, I guess that's cool, but I was like, bro, you're gonna hurt. This is bad for your children, and it was. He put them in jeopardy. But I'm like, whatever. I guess emotions took him over.
So hard, dude.
It does.
With all my gripes with that movie, I actually think that part makes sense, because if he just leaves, this dude's gonna keep coming after his family, so he's just gonna try and settle it now.
Yeah. But I'm very much on that front as well. If he doesn't take him out, then he's just gonna keep coming back.
Yeah, it didn't matter though because he's literally there at the end. Spoiler for Avatar: The Way of Water if people haven't seen it.
If they haven't seen it by now, it's been like 2 years almost. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't. Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of those movies, but we'll see. I mean, I'll say it's like probably the most visually stunning movie I've ever seen.
I mean, that's something. I mean, that's not a light statement there.
the big thing with Avatar for me is, and I think you know this about me, Stone, but I'm a big like IMAX shill. Like, I love IMAX. And if a movie can get me in on that, like just show me the scale of your world, like I'm there. I'm there. I will love it probably no matter what, even if it's a crappy movie. I will probably still appreciate it for that sense. But Avatar, just in general, like I love James Cameron. It is familiar territory. It is very much the first movie over again, but I'm okay with that.
I'll say, I wanted to say this in the intro, like how chill Van was, even though he's incredibly knowledgeable about movies. I love that you can just have fun with them and not be so serious, like especially on Twitter, which I guess that's the place for it. But when you said IMAX, maybe think that Connor, he posted like this just random picture, the fact that he grabbed Taco Bell and had a copy of Sing Sing. And he was like, yep, this is going to be my night, basically. And both A24 and IMAX were like, hell yeah.
I love IMAX, dude.
I bet that burrito hit too.
It hit a lot more when I saw that they responded. So
enjoy them while you have them. RFK is trying to get rid of Taco Bell.
Yeah. I mean, I really like it. It's one of those things. I don't think it's for everybody, but it is definitely like cheap food.
I'll say I've been on the grilled cheese burrito.
I kind of go back and forth. I get a beefy 5-layer or like a chicken quesadilla. Those are like my two go-tos.
Oh, I always get.
You're not a Mexican pizza guy?
No, I really am not. You would think I am, but I just not my thing. I'll even get a bean burrito.
But it's when you mentioned IMAX though, it made me think. I'm kind of sad because I think IMAX, when you can use it to its full max and not like worry about the price because it is more expensive, is with like the A-list or I guess Regal and their deal that they have. But it made me think about it because you have the IMAX hat that you wear all the time, and I
do, yeah.
I have this AMC. Yeah, but then on the back of it, it says the 3 movies a week, and they're changing that shit.
Did you? How long have you had that hat?
The guy posted it like not too long ago. Like it was like kind of like Etsy, but this guy made it himself. And I know Cinema Joe, he got one of the hats too. I saw him post about it.
I saw that on Twitter actually. Funny enough, I couldn't read it from like with all the light behind you, but I see it.
Yeah, so funny. Yeah. So it's it's kind of cool. It'll be like I guess nostalgic, which is wild because it's no longer going to be 3 movies a week. It's going to be 4, which is kind of crazy. But it allowed me to watch, I don't even know, like 4 movies come out every single week, but it allowed me to, there's so many rewatches now. So,
yeah, it's very rare that I actually use all 3 of mine for the week. I think I've done it like once or twice, and I've had it for a few years now.
I said, I guess the big thing is like when they do an advanced, like a fan screening or something, they have something like that, and you try to book it in advance, that like takes 1 year for the week kind of a thing. So even if you book it, it's like 3 weeks out.
Yeah. Or even like tickets for a movie
near you.
What was that?
Do you guys have an RJ cinema near you?
No, not in Atlanta. We have, okay. I mean, we like the big major chains. We have AMC, we have Regal, and then there's another one that's like Marcus Taverns. For some reason, they call like bars taverns here. It's like one of those like bar like theaters.
Well, that's kind of what I was asking. Is RJ is one that opened up like 30 minutes from me. Like they got like an outside like turf area with like cornhole fire pits. It's a brewery. They make their own food, and like it's actually like legit nice food, not like whatever they air fry at Cinemark.
Yeah. And are they like showing like movies out there or no?
Yeah, like
are they new releases too? Because I'd be like pissed if I went to go see Avatar for the first time and that's how I experienced it, was just watching people play cornhole.
No. That's the outside hangout.
Okay. So they play movies, but they're not like new releases. Okay.
No, they do new releases. Like I saw Dune 2 the second weekend there.
Oh no, I just meant like the movies outside.
Oh,
for that like hangout area. Like
I do have 2 drive-ins near me, and they do new movies as well. But
I haven't done a drive-in in a while.
I'm not a big fan. I did one like I did one recently, and I was like trying and you play it through your radio, the audio, and I was like trying to get a good angle, but I guess I don't know if my car is not built for it or something. I'm not built. It's not built like that. But I'm like, I can't see it that well, and I can't hear it that well, even though it's on the radio. But I was just like, I would rather just be in a seat and popcorn and soda in my hand, kind of a thing.
I think it depends on your vehicle, like you just said, because like I have a truck, so I just keep the radio on and we sit in the bed, and it works out
That's
great.
good.
That's prime watching material for driving right there with the truck.
Yeah.
I will say it might have been because I broke my golden rule though, because I watched Bad Boys not Ride or Die. It was Ride or Die. It was a recent one.
The new one was Ride or Die. Yeah.
Ride or Die. Yeah. I broke my rule because I haven't seen. I know, man. I haven't seen the other Bad Boys, so I try not to watch a movie out of order. I will not watch. Like I'm not going to watch Terrifier 3 if I haven't seen the other Terrifier films. That's just what I do.
Let me ask you this, because this is kind of a thing for me too. But is it only if it's a new release? Because like, for example, if I haven't seen Bad Boys, the first, second, or third one in a while, I'll go ahead and just watch 4. But if I'm at home and somebody wants to watch Fast Furious 5, I'm like, I got to watch 1 through 4 first. Like, I feel like I got to watch them as part of a series.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I've never seen Bad Boys, like the other Bad Boy movies. So I guess that's a little bit different.
But just generally speaking, like, let's say hypothetically, what's a franchise you've seen before?
Well, I guess it depends on the franchise, right? Because we actually did we did a The Rock episode, and we talked about the Fate of the Furious, which is the 8th one.
Yeah, 8th one, yeah.
And I don't necessarily think the timeline of the Fast and Furious movies, it's funny you use that example, matters that much when you get to the 8th one, because I know there's like 2 or 3 people who like come back from the dead or something. So I was like, I did not watch 7 movies.
They don't come back from the dead in that one. They only come back from the dead in 10. But
yeah, Gal Gadot, I think, comes back at the end of 10, because I saw that one in theaters and I saw her come back, and I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Like the critics side of me aside, I genuinely have a great time with the Fast and Furious franchise, but
they're fun. I kind of in the same way. I recently found them at a secondhand store, like the first 8 movies on 4K for a really good price. And so I've just been watching them recently because I just want to make sure that they run fine so I don't have to return anything. And I think as long as you get up to like 8, I think 8 is like the last one where you're like, this is fun. Like this is, even though they're kind of dumb, they're still fun. 9 is the first one where I start to feel like there is some real like tipping off points. Like it's like, let's just finish this. Like we just got to get through this.
Yeah. Well, I'm the one who picked Fate of the Furious for that episode because I have the most fun with that movie. Number 9, I remember 8 being fun. Yeah. Number 9, Hobbs and Shaw sucks. And then
Hobbs and Shaw's awful. Hobbs and Shaw is terrible.
Did they give like Jason's? No, it's not. Who's the villain in that? Idris Elba, right?
Hobbs and Shaw. Yeah, it's Idris Elba. Yeah.
And does he have like superpowers or something?
He's like
half human, cyborg.
That's what I'm talking about, man. I'm not going to watch 7 Fast and Furious movies to get to Cyborg Idris Elba.
That's like the one you can really skip, because Hobbs and Shaw is like the one movie that you're like, it doesn't matter if you watch it or not. It's like continuity wise, there's nothing there.
It's funny though. I saw people talking about the. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, also The Rock and Jason Statham both have it in their contracts that they can't lose a fight. So
it's exhausting to watch. Yeah.
I don't know, because he looks like he probably loses a fight in the Smashing Machine. I mean, I don't know the true story based on the I guess it's a boxer that he's or wrestler, probably a wrestler, but that he's portraying. Yeah, so it looks like he loses, so that contract might be broken in that. He probably wins in the end.
It seems like he's trying to take his acting career down a different trajectory now.
That's what it feels like.
Teaming up with Scorsese next, like.
Maybe. They've announced like 5 Scorsese movies. And none of them have actually started filming or really gotten off the ground kind of a thing. Same with Damien Chazelle. They're announcing some Evel Knievel stuff with Damien Chazelle. And I remember they announced something about him doing like, I think a prison musical. And I know you love Damien Chazelle, Connor. So I'm like, what happened to that movie? Now we're on Evel Knievel?
I think the prison like musical was kind of a bit of a joke or like a jab at like Hollywood.
That was one that I feel like there was not been like anything that's been solidified. At least this Evil Knievel one, we're seeing people getting cast, you know?
Yeah. In consideration, because not officially, right? Because they're in heavy talks. Like I gotta wait till they actually say cast, because even like the Severus Snape casting that they came out with the Harry Potter, that guy's like, I think all the reports are like he's like almost there. Like this guy's almost the new Severus Snape. I can't remember the actor's name, but it's like not official yet. Which keep yourself from being disappointed just in case it doesn't happen, kind of a thing. But it was funny. It was funny we were talking about the Fast Furious movies and how many there are, because I saw people making the joke about the Mickey 17 and like, do I have to watch like the first 16 beforehand? And I was like, I wish.
When we were in line to go see it. Sorry, go ahead, Con.
I'm going back to what we were talking about. There's 3 confirmed casted in Damien Chazelle's next movie. And that's Flea, the Red Hot Chili Peppers musician. Max Minghella is,
I know who that is.
And then Samara Weaving.
Samara Weaving?
Mm-hmm.
In Damien Chazelle's movie?
Yeah.
Is this IMDb?
And then Adrian Brody is rumored, and Leo is also rumored.
Those are the only 2 that I heard of.
The Leo one was one I heard of. I didn't even hear about Adrian Brody.
That came out like yesterday.
I didn't heard about Adrian Brody.
But whatever. But yeah, we can probably get into Bong Joon-Ho. This is a good ramble we were doing here at the beginning.
Yeah, we can go for 16 minutes.
Yeah. So I guess the first movie that we're going to talk about, Memories of Murders, was your pick, Van. And it's interesting because I think, I guess objectively is the right term. This was basically what people thought was Bong Joon-Ho's best movie before Parasite. Like everyone loved this the most out of anything that he had done. And it was really interesting just going back and watching his stuff. I still have a couple more to go. I have Mother, and then he also did one before Memories of Murder, correct? I can't remember.
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I haven't seen it, but I heard good things about it.
Okay, I think Mother is the only one besides that I haven't seen.
I didn't realize he did Snowpiercer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I forget he did Snowpiercer, to be honest.
I mean, any any movie that has Song, how do you say it, Song Kang-ho?
Yeah, he works with him a lot.
To be fair, I watched Snowpiercer before I was like really into film. So
yeah, Song Kang-ho is his name,
dude. But just like watching all these, like you can say, I don't know how to put it, but like I was thinking about it. Christopher Nolan's movies kind of feel similar in like genre sometimes, like Tenet kind of feels like Inception kind of. I mean, they are a little bit different, but I don't know. Bong, because he can do so much comedy, and that's like obviously something that Christopher Nolan would never really go into, I wouldn't say. But then like Memories of Murder, even The Host and Parasite does have some funny materials, but he does like some really dark stuff. And I wanted to say that I was just so impressed watching his films for this episode and just seeing how diverse this guy can really do anything, which is so impressive. So impressive.
He's mentioned before that he wants to do a movie in every genre, and it's interesting to kind of see him tackle that. It is kind of like you're saying, like Nolan kind of does more or less a lot of the same things with his films in tone and the way that he's kind of playing with genre, but Bong Joon-Ho is kind of one of those guys that I remember seeing the trailer for Mickey 17 and I was like, the studio just doesn't know how to like market this. And it's probably because there's a lot going on here, and you've seen it. So I think you could probably agree with me. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot. And then it's also, I mean, Okja went to Netflix, and it's a crazy Bong story about something being created that has some interesting humor, but also a lot of political stuff in it. I feel like nobody is like doing this. Like when I was watching The Host, we'll get into it, but I wasn't expecting the political turn that movie took towards the end. That was awesome. And he like always really incorporates that in his stuff. Maybe not as much in his Memories of Murder, which we're about to get into, but yeah, I just honestly, maybe the studio was scared to do that too, because we've heard stories about Disney like trying to say like, be all inclusive, but then they like back out of it. So I think sometimes, especially with big theatrical movies, they're sometimes scared to like have a real message that could really really impact people both negatively if you're on a certain side, and then also obviously positively. So yeah, there's no one really doing it like him. And like you said that he wants to do a movie in every single genre. I mean, I'm so excited because he said his next movie is probably going to be an animated one. And he's been working on that since he's been working on that since 2019, man. 2019 he's been working on that movie.
So you're telling me we don't get a Bong Joon-Ho Western next?
I wouldn't doubt it.
I love a good Western.
I wouldn't doubt it. And then he also, it's funny, I saw like this statement he went around that I think was a joke, and a lot of people took it seriously, saying that he would maybe do like an alien musical. And he was 100% joking about that, because I've been looking up a lot of videos about him, and he literally said, I would never do a musical. That's like the one genre that I just don't think I could touch. I don't even think he likes them per se.
He doesn't.
So he's just joking.
He doesn't like them.
Yeah. So everyone like took that literally. They're like, okay, Bong, what are we doing here? And I mean, he's a super funny guy. Like in person, he's always like cracking jokes, which is really cool. Even like with talking to people who speak English, he's like, hey, let me crack a joke real quick, and I'll wait for my interpreter to, interpret and stuff like that.
It's interesting to see his humor, because I mean, there might be a cultural difference with us watching his American movies, like his English movies, compared to like his like Korean language films. And I think that's something that we see with a lot of like, foreign language filmmakers, just for the most part, where they make a movie in English and it's like, do we know what they're like? The timing is it the same for them? Is comedic timing the same? Is it the same effect for jokes? And it makes you wonder if that's a thing.
Yeah, I remember.
I feel like with sometimes watching these foreign language films, you kind of have to watch them twice to like truly appreciate them. Because like, I feel like for me anyway, a lot of times I'm like reading the captions for a lot of it, and it's hard to like sometimes balance, especially with like real heavy dialogue scenes.
I think so. And one big thing is, well, with any movie that has comedy, for me personally, I can't watch comedies with subtitles. Most movies I can, but comedies I can't, because it ruins the punchline for me, like the delivery of the joke. But foreign language films, you don't really have an option. You have to read it.
Yeah, very much so. And I think with his movies, though, which really helps. Same. And I think what really helps with him is I think there's a lot of physical comedy in it.
Yeah.
So that really helps, like, bridge the gap between the languages. Is like everyone can laugh at. Obviously, Pattinson's like doing absolutely ridiculous stuff. Obviously, it's not a foreign language film, but I think Mickey 17 will really connect, obviously, with Bong Joon-ho's, fans in Korea, but then also, across the world.
I've noticed other countries have a lot more physical comedy in their movies. In America, it's almost always like dialogue.
Dude, every time he drop kicks someone in this movie, I laugh.
It's so good.
I said that's also why the Minions movies are so big everywhere, because the Minions don't talk. They're literally the Three Stooges, like that. They're like Charlie Chaplin. They're physical comedy.
Yeah,
that's what the Minions are.
Comedy's a thing.
So that's like the animated movies. I mean, the last Minions, Despicable Me 4 made almost $1 billion. Almost all of them always make $1 billion. That's because the entire world loves them, because everyone can enjoy them. So. But yeah, you want to get into speaking of Minions, go right into Memories of Murder. Very similar films. But if anybody, yeah, I don't know which one I put above the other one. But do you want to, Van? This is your pick. Do you want to give like a brief synopsis, maybe about what this movie's about?
It is a movie about two detectives during the 80s, I think late 80s, trying to solve the first rape and murder case in, I think, South Korea.
And is this you say like it's true story? Is it based on a true story? You might know it better than
I actually don't know. It might be.
It is.
Oh shit. Wow. Well, that makes the ending hit a lot harder. We won't get there just yet. And also, this movie is Van. Always, what we do is we kind of spoil movies, because this movie's like 22 years old. So hopefully, if someone's tuning in this episode knows we're talking about Memories of Murder, that they've stuck around to this point. We're going to talk about it full spoilers. But yeah, this is my first time watching it, Van.
Everything
not as much
as a first for me.
Everything was besides Okja. I watched Okja before. I like Okja.
Okay.
And I love that you picked that, Connor, because I think Okja is, in my opinion, the most similar to Mickey 17. And I kind of want to like make a video telling people to watch Okja before they watch Mickey 17, so they know that they're going to get that Bong Joon-ho and not Parasite Bong Joon-ho, even though there is some Parasite, but it's way more Okja.
It kind of
Real
feels
quick,
like a good
Stone, you can
cross between Snowpiercer and Okja to me.
With the snow, definitely.
we can jump into what you were about to say. I don't want to cut you off, but when I've been like trying to like watch reviews on movies we watch just to kind of help me, one, perfect my craft, and two, like just hear others' thoughts as well. And when I looked up Okja on TikTok, you're like the third video down from a video like 2 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know why that video is actually doing really well right now. TikTok does that sometimes. Could be people searching up Bong Joon-ho.
I was gonna say Bong Joon-Ho probably, but I bet you can't guess why I picked that movie, Stone.
Oh, because you Jake Gyllenhaal. You love Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
Have you seen Ambulance? We're going soft topic on this episode.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay, I still need to watch that. I heard that movie's a banger.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Go into it having a fun time, not like you're expecting a Scorsese masterpiece, and you'll have a great time with it.
Yeah. Well, it's Michael Bay, so that's the thing. You have to go into directors knowing what they're going to give you, and sometimes with Bong Joon-ho, that's tough because he gives you so much, which I think is his greatest strength as well. Oh yeah, Memories of Murder. I will say, Connor, you mentioned it. The drop kicks, like I was watching this at work last night, and I literally paused it and just showed my coworker. I was like, "Watch this shit! It's so funny." And I think he's like on the top. He's on the top of this hill. And it's that one time I think that gentleman's just like searching for directions. Oh, no. Is it the other detective who's searching for directions? I think it is at the very beginning of
I think so.
Yeah, the guy from Seoul. And he's literally searching for directions, and I totally forgot about that. That makes sense why he doesn't necessarily like him too much. But anyways, yeah, he's like at the top of this hill. It jumps. It literally just 2 feet forward, just nails him. And I was like, that's great physical comedy, but it's like really impressive from an actor because that's Song Kang-ho. That's him doing that. You can obviously tell it's him. But anyways, not a whole lot of comedy in this. Very dark story. Besides the kicking moments, and I think that the heart of this movie for me, what really stood out to me, and I think this is pretty obvious, is the relationship and the changes that these two men go through just trying to work on this case. Because I think it's Park, right? Song's character is not that serious, kind of a goofball at the beginning, saying, I will say, said there's not a lot of comedy, but the scene where he's like, those two guys right there, one of them's a rapist and the other one's that raped this guy's sister, and the other one's the guys whose sister, that had that happen to. Which one is which? He's like trying to stare at them, and he's like, I can't do it. that was pretty funny, I have to admit. But yeah, and then you have I think it's Seo. I'm trying to pronounce his name correctly, but the other detective who comes in is like super serious and realizes that this guy's a joke, Song's a joke. And it's so interesting because what eventually plays out, as we know, is a very frustrating case where they just can't seem to find what they need to convict whoever they need to convict. So I thought it was so fascinating that no matter what expertise or education or intellectual capabilities any detective has when it comes to these two guys, the fact that they're trying so hard to accomplish the exact same thing brings them together. And they, at the end, don't necessarily have that many differences that are noticeable, and they more just confide in each other through their frustrations. And I just thought that was really fascinating to me. And then also, I wasn't expecting this, but I would say the political side of this that Bong Joon-ho incorporates a little bit, just in this movie, obviously he does it in a lot of his other films, is the whole police brutality kind of a thing. I guess it's the police detectives, but the fact that the entire city kind of knows that these detectives are, in a sense, scumbags and just beating the shit out of people to try to make them confess to crimes that they didn't commit. That was really interesting, especially when it came to, I can't remember the guy's name, but I think he's autistic, the autistic guy that they try to blame
it's in
for
like
that one.
It's like one of the first people that they like think is a suspect. I know you're talking about.
Yes. Yeah. So especially, I didn't realize his story was going to conclude in the way it did, which was really fascinating. But yeah, I got a lot of David Fincher here, a lot of obviously Seven. I feel like I mean, this came out after Seven, so I'm sure that really influenced Bong probably. But yeah, solid movie. Van, why did you choose this?
Uh, Partly because of David Fincher. Funny enough, I mean, we were just talking before we started the pod, but David Fincher is one of my favorite directors, and I watched Zodiac before I watched this. I watched Seven before I watched this, and so this was one of the first movies I watched of Bong Joon-Ho's, and it was like right. I think it was right as I was finishing high school, maybe out of high school, but it was one of those movies that I felt kind of the same way I did about Zodiac in the sense that you don't really get a solid answer. Like the movie kind of gives you an idea of like it's probably this person, but we're not going to actually like say it. I think with Zodiac, there's a little bit more of a satisfactory ending with the sense that like even though they don't know for sure that it's him, it's the version of that like it's what they want to give the audience. It's like it may as well be him. This one,
Yeah.
it's like there really is no person that they could be like it's may as well be this person because it's just there's so much going on. There's so much unanswered questions. And I think that's kind of the point is that like they're just trying really hard the whole movie, and the only thing that really works out for them is getting closer to each other, trying to do their job correctly. And even then, it's just the valleys and in the roads that they go through to kind of try and do this. It's a journey, really.
What'd you think, Connor?
Yeah, I let me watch this one more time. I might like this better than Parasite.
Okay, all right.
That, this seems like more of my kind of story. I really enjoyed it. Drop kicks aside, even though those were hilarious, and my favorite one was absolutely at like the mining site when they found the dude with the red underwear.
That was good.
But
That was a nice little gag. I like that.
well, I love that they're like line them all up. He's looking at him, and then he just turns around and like flinches his head, and guy just comes flying in. But
That was really good.
we'll get to the more serious stuff. Not to jump ahead a lot, but looking at this versus the host, in the host, when he's filming the scenes of two people talking, it's like very snappy camera work, like going back and forth. This one, I like it so much more when they're like kind of squatted down, looking at the scene, and it's just panning back and forth. And it feels like you're like a fourth detective in the conversation with them. And then with all that, I think my favorite scene in the entire movie, because it was just bone chilling, was when the girl is walking down the road singing, and then you hear the whistling behind her, and then you just see this head poking out of the grass behind her. That is terrifying.
That was so good.
Maybe the best scene in the movie. It is for me. I don't know how you guys feel, but that scene, it was fucking amazing.
I think it's up there. Like that whole and you're really I like your point about the way that the film is edited and the way that it's kind of like it doesn't cut away. You have shots within shots where they don't cut away, and it does make you feel like a fourth detective. And that's kind of a big thing I felt about Zodiac as well, is you kind of have this sense of like you're part of the story. You're kind of helping solve the mystery in a sense. And the host, Parasite, there's a lot more snappier editing. There is a bit more energy there. This one kind of feels like there is a lot of dread and gloom, and it's because you're kind of just there with them. Like a good majority of the movie is just you watching them not figure it out.
Do you know what's a wild? I think that personally, I prefer Parasite and the host editing. But I was just thinking about certain scenes in this movie that just stood out to me. There's like, I would say even two bold choices that are completely different. But I'll go with the one that appears at the beginning of the movie. Is that there's this really long take about him wanting a receipt back for his food, and he like talks to the guy behind him, and he's like, I have a receipt. He's like, oh no, that receipt's not it. He's like, didn't you go to the police academy? Like this really long take, right? And the entire time there's just people screaming in the background in this like police station, and they're never acknowledged. And I was like, how raw is that? That just feels like an authentic police station, and it doesn't feel like a movie at that point, because not necessarily anything that's going on. I guess you do get a little bit of character development for Park and just how much of a relaxed guy he is. But I really thought that was an interesting decision. I really liked that. then also, I have to say, you were saying, Van, how like the little difference between this and Zodiac is that there's a little bit more closure with Zodiac, right? And I think the fact that there's not as much closure with this is such a, I mean, this isn't a really, fancy term, but such a big baller move or big ball move by Bong
Yeah.
to do that. Like it frustrates your audience. Like I mean, I texted Van right after, but like I hate this.
You fall at the risk of like alienating the audience and making them wonder like what was the point of this movie. But for the most part, I feel like anybody I've talked to about this movie like really acknowledges it's really good, even if you don't get the answer that you want to.
And then I mean the last scene though, I mean, it's just the stare into the camera. It's like it's haunting. It just feels like such a you feel so bad for him. I mean, I guess that's what I felt. Is I'm just like, it's just never going to happen for you, kind of like Zodiac. But it's just like you're so close. It's the same feeling. It's the exact same feeling. I was curious when you were talking about Fincher. I wonder. I would maybe try to look it up, like what Fincher has said about this movie, if he said anything at all, because obviously this was made before Zodiac.
I think I could be wrong, but I feel like I've read somewhere that David Fincher likes this movie for the most part, and it could be that it was an influence on it. But let me see.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
While you look that up, I have a question for you guys. So this movie is obviously based on a true story. If a director or writer wrote a movie like this and didn't actually give you closure, does that affect how you rate the movie at all if it's a fictional story?
I think it depends.
That's tough. That's an interesting question. Depends on the story. Yeah, I mean, what is the purpose? What is the point of the movie? Kind of a thing. Because I think, like I was saying, like my favorite part of this movie, I think the point is to show how close these guys get, right? And I think that really works with there not being a suspect they find at the very end, somebody to convict. Because it's
for me, it kind of depends on whether or not they want to give closure, like even if they hint that it's somebody. And then this one kind of really plays in the idea that like they're never going to find this person. Yeah. It's just some random guy. And I think it depends how well executed they try to go about it, how much of the filmmaking is on display. Because a film like this could easily fall into the hands of like, oh, they didn't find the killer. It pisses me off. But there's so much happening and there's so much like craft that it's like, I don't even care that they didn't find the killer. Like there's so much happening on display. There's so much craft. There's so much talent that it's like, I don't even care. I think it depends.
Yeah, like my wife was asking me the other day what my favorite genre of movie is, and like the broad answer is like war films. But I don't even know if this is considered a genre, but I really like movies that are based on a true story, especially if I don't know it going into it, and then it tells me at the end like based on a true story, because then I immediately dive into research about how accurate it was. But one of the other things I'm like thinking about when I ask this question too is like Full Metal Jacket. Like that movie isn't based in reality. And like there's closure at the end because they finally get the sniper, but like it's still not closure because you still see the weight of the war on them and everything else. But like I want to know if like Kubrick kind of wrote in them killing that sniper as the closure of that film, since it is a fictional story.
Well, I think it's a little bit different because I guess when you're talking about closure, this movie and that movie are completely different because there's one driving force the entire time in Memories of Murder, where the sniper just randomly pops up at the end of Full Metal Jacket. So, I mean, the closure is, I can't remember the actor's or the character's name in that movie, but it's
Joker.
haunting, right? It's Joker. It's like the fact that like what he's become. I guess there's no closure. The end of the movie is very horrifying. Them all singing the Mickey Mouse song. So I get what you're saying though, like a fictional movie based on like a true events kind of a thing.
Yeah, but what I'm more thinking like is with that movie, would people hold it in less high of a regard if they never got the sniper?
I don't know. I don't think so personally.
I don't think it had to be a sniper. It could have been like, it's just, would the movie have been held in higher regards if Joker didn't get to that point? Like, I think you have closure in Joker, right? It's not good closure, but you know who he is. That is the closure, right? And the fact that the audience is able to figure that out, I think is very rewarding, even though it's not necessarily a great turn for him, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And there's a million other movies we could have picked. I just kind of picked that one because it's also a darker theme and like it's not good closure per se, like you were saying.
I think it gives you closure in the sense that it's a journey for the audience to go on. And if they, let's say, for example, they didn't catch this guy, the sniper. If the story was about that and primarily that, I think it'd be a different story. But if they didn't catch him, I think it would have just been like one thing where we see videos on YouTube, like what would have happened if they caught this person? What would have happened if they killed him? There's a lot to unpack there. So I would say if they didn't, possibly no. But I mean, there's a lot to really look at with something like that.
I was gonna say, and the other thing too, and we can get off of Full Metal Jacket after this and kind of either wrap up Memories of Murder, or go on. But Kubrick probably would have been criticized even harder than he already was for making an anti-Vietnam movie at the time he did, if the Americans didn't win in the end of that movie.
That is also true. Yeah. That could have been a bold move. Also, just like maybe giving a Vietnamese person like their own kind of story, like their perspective. That would have been like the top tier, like piss everybody off kind of a movie. Especially in the 70s or 80s, whenever it was made. I would really like that. I think that could have been the pinnacle, the peak.
Yeah. Anyway, Memories of Murder.
Yeah, I was thinking though, with Memories of Murder, it's just like I don't know. Like I said, sometimes when it comes to, I don't know if I like the layout of like they find somebody, it's not it. They find somebody, it's not it. They find somebody, it's not it. At times, this is my first watch, it felt just a little bit repetitive. Maybe not the circumstances around how they found them, but also I say that, and every single time, like, oh man, there's this like everything with the wearing red, and also the rain happening, which I'm just thinking about it right now. Whoever this person was, if it was the same person, right? Was it the same person the entire time? Because the reason why I'm saying that is they broke their rule with the last kill. I don't think it was raining, and I definitely noticed that the person wasn't wearing red. So it's like is the Zodiac killer, all those kills the same person, or is it someone different?
With the Zodiac killer specifically, I actually think it was two people.
Yep. See?
But then that kind of opens the conversation for this as well. Was it two people? And I think you could have an argument for that and how much of this story could have leaned into, is there two people? But then it becomes not based on a true story unless that really was a discussion that was talked about. But when you get to the point of there being two people, I think you also fall into the like this weird hole of like, you have to at least find one, because finding one's hard enough.
Very true. It's easier too.
It is.
It's easier to just pin it all on one person, especially through all the strife and the troubles that they've gone through.
But I think if hypothetically, if this movie ended in a way where like they caught one person and then 20 years later, 10 years later, however long it is between like the last kill and them hearing the thing at the end, that kind of opens the door for saying there might be two killers, and then maybe there's that, or we got the wrong person.
Yeah. One thing I also didn't get to was, I guess there's a very big thing that this killer does every single time, right? Is they plays that song on the radio, and they find the guy, right? The guy at the very end who they think has done all these murders, right? And he is the one sending in this request for this song. So I think that, in my opinion, like, I guess it's not good evidence, but I wouldn't kind of have any doubts in my, like, the fact that if he's the one always requesting the song every single time someone gets killed, it kind of has to be him, right? But I guess they can never prove that he was the person who requested the songs at the other times, right? It was just that one night, the only postcard that they were actually able to get, they found him. I don't know. It seems like pretty good evidence to me.
On the same note, yeah, it would be one crazy fucking coincidence if it was played every night of the murder. But like, I don't think just because he's requested the song is enough hard soil evidence to be like, he's killed how many women.
And like, we keep coming back to Zodiac, but that's again a point that they make in the movie, that all of this stuff happens with Arthur Lee Allen and it's all circumstantial. Like, it's no hard evidence. They wouldn't be able to use that.
They don't have a witness, and they had a witness at first in this movie. Oh, that was tragic.
Oh yeah.
See you later. Trains. I'm not a big fan of trains.
I love trains. Trains are great.
Really? Well, watch your step, okay? I knew that was gonna happen, man. I felt so bad, cool, because he was just like, it kind of seemed like he was happy, and he was just like, "Hey, look, a train," and he's like, "Yeah, it is a train. Wait, step back." Just whoop, there he goes. But yeah, I think this like, I would say like Connor said though, I think this is gonna hit even better for me on a rewatch. Like this was my first time.
I think it's a good rewatch movie, to be honest. I've watched it a few times, and the first time I watched it, I was like kind of where you are now, where I was like kind of frustrated. But the more I sat with it, I was like, dang, like I just want to rewatch that.
Yeah, and there's also, I mean, like I said, I keep on going back to these two guys, but I also think it's so powerful too, the fact that when they're at each other's throats, right, is when another girl gets killed. And that like the police chief points that out. It's like you guys were fucking around and look what happened, you know? And it's just like that. I think after that moment, they're able to finally connect with each other and be like, we have one goal. Let's try to work together as best as possible.
You mentioned Mother that he did as well. Have you seen that already or no?
No, that's the one. That's the one movie I haven't seen.
It's very similar.
Besides his first one.
It's very similar, and it's strange to watch it because I remember watching it the first time, and I was like, I just feel like I should just be watching Memories of Murder. But there's some good stuff in there too.
Yeah, I'm definitely.
Do you guys have any closing thoughts on this?
Probably gonna watch Mother tonight. That's my closing thought.
It's hard to kind of really say it, and I kind of feel you there, Connor, with this movie. But it's one of those things where I feel like I go back and forth with Parasite and this as his best movie. It's tough because the Fincher shill in me loves Zodiac, and I think this is the closest to Zodiac that he's ever been. But I also love the stuff that he goes into with Parasite. I think Parasite is probably the best he's done when it comes to like balancing genres. Like there's a good amount of horror. I think there's a good amount of comedy. There's also a good amount of drama and like just a lot of themes there. But this one is just so tight and so packed, and like there's so much going on. And I think all the like slow, methodical editing to it, there's just something about this one that like makes me want to come back to it over and over again. Whereas Parasite, it's like, even though there's more fun, energetic moments, it feels like you're watching more like something you have to digest more.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know
there's a lot of good in both.
Van, as you're going to find out, and as Stone's already hinted at, Jake Gyllenhaal is my favorite actor, and I love David Fincher. I'm not a big fan of Zodiac.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, the best scene in that movie is with your boy in the basement, where he's like, dude, am I about to get fucking killed right now? Is the best scene in the entire movie.
I agree. I'm not a Mark Ruffalo fan at all. I don't think he's a great actor, so him and that like kind of and then I don't know, maybe I need to revisit it, but because it's been like maybe 3 years now since I've seen it, but I'm just not a big. It's been since the first time Stone was ever on the podcast that I've watched that movie.
That was my first appearance on the podcast. We talked about David Fincher. They had me on as a guest, and I guess I did a pretty good job because here I am hosting or co-hosting. So let's go.
I like.
Yeah, we asked Nick
quite a bit. You actually, I didn't realize that you didn't like Mark Ruffalo. That's funny to think about because Mickey 17 has quite a bit of them.
Yeah, Bong Joon-Ho likes him, so you should like him because he's watched a couple more movies than us, so probably.
Just because of one of the best directors working likes an actor doesn't mean I'm gonna move them up in my rankings.
Yeah, sure. I guess that makes sense. I have to ask though, fan, what is your favorite Fincher film? I just keep thinking about it.
Social Network.
Fuck yeah! Oh, that is my favorite movie of all time.
I think one of my favorites as well.
I think Social Network's my fourth highest rated Fincher.
It's so good, man. It's just okay. We're not talking about it, but there's like I think the pinnacle of like a great movie is like having quotable lines. There's like 45 quotable lines in that movie. It's so good.
I can quote like the entire thing when I watch it.
Social Network's in my fourth for Fincher. Mine goes Gone Girl, Girl with Dragon Tattoo, and 7 above it.
That's fair. That's fair. I can take that.
Those are good.
Girl with the Dragon Tattoo up there is pretty good. Still mad we didn't get 2 and 3, but take what we can get.
Do we all have Memories of Murder at a 5-star?
I would have 4.5.
I probably have it at a 4. right now, to be honest, which is crazy. I'm so sorry, but
so
do you have it at 5? You said, do we all have it at 5? Damn.
Yeah, I have it.
Okay, Van. Good recommendation, my friend.
What can I say?
I mean, I guess you only have so many to choose from, but
it was crazy to me that nobody had picked Memories of Murder is what was wild to me.
Yeah, we actually just discussed the 2020 Best Picture winners. So I guess even though Parasite came out in 2019, it was won in 2020. So we had just spoken about Parasite. So we're like on this really good Bong Joon-Ho run, which is why I'm like, dude, I can watch Mother tonight and we'll be set. And then what is his other Barking Dogs Never Bite? I'll also watch that maybe tonight.
It's like the only feature of his that I've not seen.
All right. Well,
we're ready to go in the opposite direction.
Oh, I am ready because I might have a hot take here. I think this might be my favorite Bong Joon-Ho movie, The Host, which I was not expecting to say that. I recommended this movie because I thought maybe Monster and like what happens in Mickey 17. I was trying. That's the reason why I think nobody picked Memories of Murder, because I was trying to pick movies that are like kind of similar to Mickey 17. That's why I thought of The Host maybe. But I think that, okay, let me give a brief synopsis. It's pretty simple. It's just there's a family and a monster that terrorizes the family, and basically all of, I guess, I don't know if it's a Seoul, but a part of South Korea.
I think it was Seoul.
Was it Seoul? Okay.
I think it's Seoul too.
And it's very funny because I'll mention this because I guess it is important, but I thought this whole movie was going to be more focused on pollution because that's how this monster comes to be. I think it's formaldehyde that these army guys at this base in Korea like dump into the sink, and it creates this monster. I'm very happy that that's not all the movie was about, because the route it took was very, very surprising. But I think, and this is crazy, I think that this might be, in my opinion, Bong Joon-Ho's best shot film. There are so many like jaw-dropping visuals, in my opinion, which is crazy because the one unfortunately not jaw-dropping visual is the monster, which that in my opinion that's like the one flaw of this movie. I don't see a whole lot of flaws, but I mean it's of the times. I will say the design is super different and interesting, especially like this whole thing with the tail and grabbing the victims with the tail and just like whipping them. I like that. That's kind of different for a monster for me. But yeah, there's this I mean, maybe it's not like visuals that you would think of right away that would impress you, but like the two I can think of is there's this one sequence where they think this, the main actor has a virus and they're putting him in this confinement in this hospital, and there's this really big close-up of his face in the hospital, but he's talking to someone, but he's talking through them through like a white plastic like curtain. And I just really liked that. I thought that like just the way his face was framed and just how the texture of the curtain looked on his skin against the skin was great. But here's the one like shot that I absolutely love. I mean, this is not like a whole summary of the movie. I'm sorry, I'm just talking about one shot, but I have to do it. It's this sequence where the brother, or I guess it's the uncle, he falls from a bridge, right? And we see the camera is above the bridge, and basically the screen is divided diagonally, and you see the half of the bridge, and then you see all the way down to the ground, and you can see the uncle's body on the ground. And you're watching this gentleman slowly approach the edge of the bridge, and you see the uncle down there. And I just thought the depth of the shot and the fact that you see the shadow of the bridge and he rolls into the shadow as the guy looks over. That's just like, that's good stuff. That's good stuff.
Well
like,
shot.
I'm sorry. But yeah, there's so much interesting stuff here that reminded me of coronavirus a little bit, but that virus was real and this one was not real in the movie. The fact that basically it seems like maybe even the American government, but also partially the Korean government is using this monster in a way to control their citizens by faking the fact that it can give these people diseases. Because I thought it was really funny, I put in my review, because of an American man named Donald that spread misinformation. So I thought that was very funny how that pans out here in 2025. But
I feel
yeah,
like this got pretty popular after COVID. This movie did.
I remember this movie and Contagion. I remember a lot of people talking about Contagion.
Contagion, I felt like that was the biggest one that people went back to because it was American, but it was also one that came out very recently, like prior to this or prior to COVID. I think it was like 2011, 2010, wasn't it? Might have been 2012. But regardless, like this one is still kind of one that I saw people go back to, but it's because I think there's a monster involved that there was a little less like people talking about it. It was a little less like closer to earth for a lot of people, but I can see where you're coming from with the parallels there.
Yeah, definitely. Connor, I'm curious, what did you think of this? Because this is your first time watching it, so along with mine, this is my first time watching it.
You and I viewed this movie vastly different.
It's a disappointment. Go ahead, my friend.
I'll jump ahead and spoil this part. I have it at a 2.5.
Oh my god!
Oh, wow.
How? This movie's so good. Okay, tell me. Let's have a discussion. I don't understand how.
Let's have a dialogue.
So this is okay. I'll start with this because this might be what Bong Joon-Ho was going for, but the main character was pissing me off the entire time because he is just like the world's worst dad. How do you not realize you're not holding your own daughter's hand when you're trying to run her to safety?
He's not looking. He grabbed a child that's hand was the exact. It's a girl that's the exact same size, and he's just like, dude, let's go.
I am the father of a daughter. Like there's no chance I wouldn't know her hand if it wasn't me. If like I grabbed on, I would know it was my daughter's hand. He's just a piece of shit human.
Well, yeah, that's his character. He's a good. Yeah, it's established at the beginning, so that's not surprising. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on because that just pissed me off. By all means, you already mentioned it. The monster looked like shit. The CGI doesn't hold up. I don't know how it looked in. Was this one 06? I think it came out.
06, yeah.
Yeah, maybe it looked good then. It doesn't look good here. Dumping formaldehyde because there's dust on the bottle is just a dumb way to start the plot line. And there only?
Go ahead.
Why was there only one fish that was affected by it, and there's not multiple of these creatures running around? Like, was there just one fish at the bottom of the fucking drain, just like chugging it all in?
He's like sitting there drinking.
And then they threw in a plot line that their sister was an Olympic archer that couldn't just pull the trigger in time. And then she's the one who saves the day by shooting this monster in the eye to light it on fire.
I thought that was fucking sick. It's like, how could we have like a cool weapon that someone can use versus this monster?
It is sick, but like,
I thought that was awesome. I was like, I literally every time she pulled out the bow, I was like, that was a great idea. Like, I love, and she does like this thing. I don't know if this is like how Olympic archers do it, but for me, shooting a bow is just like, pull it back and just let go. But she like her bow, like, I don't know, it like whips around after she like fires it, and it's like awesome. I mean, awesome's not really a great critique, but like a great.
It's very fun to look at. I think that's the big thing, and I think a lot of Connor's criticisms and a lot of what I think me and you like about this film, Stone, is that it is a bit outlandish. It is a bit more on the fun side, and I think that's why it's a little bit like enjoyable to watch. Funny enough, you guys keep talking about the CG and the effects and just visually how this looks in 06. I haven't watched this in a while, and I do remember that I agree with you on that front. But have either of you seen The Mist?
Dude, I just watched that for the first time. What a awesome movie.
So yeah, did you watch the version that's in color? I assume you did.
Oh shoot, I didn't. There's a black and white one.
So I had someone send me a Blu-ray of The Mist because they thought I should watch it, and I watched it. And the version that I bought, or the version that they sent me, came with a black and white disc of the movie, like a black and white cut of the movie. And it basically, like, I looked into the film just to see, like, why is there a black and white disc? Like, is this the version that's meant to be watched? And funny enough, it was. Like the director said he wanted to make it in black and white, and the studio didn't want him to do it. And so I watched the black and white cut and I thought, wow, this is great. And I thought, I'm just curious, how does the color version look? And so I didn't watch the whole thing, but I skimmed through it and I noticed that the scenes that had any sort of visual effects looked significantly worse. And it's
I bet that would have been
lighting,
so good.
Yeah. And so when I go back and watch that movie, I think I'm never going to watch that colored version. And it makes me wonder if I go back and watch this movie in black and white, like if I just turn the saturation down on my TV, is this a better movie?
I don't know, because honestly, I think definitely more than Memories of Murder, but he's trying to do probably a desaturation there because of the context of the story. And then even Mickey 17, I think the colors in this are very vibrant. I especially remember that at the very beginning of the movie. So I really like that. I felt like different. Like I said, all of his movies kind of feel different to me. And just the fact of the way this one visually looks when it just comes simply to the colors, I was like, let's go. I'm really digging it right now. But The Mist, we did the Stephen King episode, and we picked Stephen King adaptation movies to discuss, and surprisingly enough, two of us chose Frank Darabont movies. We chose The Green Mile and Shawshank. So because I watched both of those, I decided to watch The Mist for the first time. And yeah, the movie's awesome. A great movie.
There's a version of this movie out there that I think was like a cut version for Cannes whenever it premiered there. I think it was Cannes. And I think it's longer, but I don't think anybody's actually seen it outside of Cannes.
You're talking about The Host?
Yeah, the Cannes Film Festival. I think it premiered there. Hold on, let me find out if this is true or not.
I feel like I've heard it. Why you look that up? The grandpa and the daughter in the shack would have heard everyone screaming and this giant monster stomping around outside. The grandpa's
good.
Please argue.
I was just saying he was old, but it's true.
Your critiques are kind of like cinema sins. They're cinema sins critiques right now. But keep going.
The grandpa's sacrifice was for nothing, and it was just stupid.
What? He didn't think it was going to be for nothing. He thought he was going to have one more bullet in that chamber. It was that goofball son. I thought it wasn't funny, but it was.
He had a point blank shot basically with the shotgun when the monster didn't know they were there, and it did nothing. What did he think one more shot was going to do?
I mean, he stuck a pole through his nose at the very end. I mean, a shotgun in the face could have done some damage to him.
That was after it was already on fire with gasoline.
And
but I would say, to be fair, like when it comes to something like this, with like Connor just not enjoying the film overall, I'm kind of that way when it comes to me not enjoying a film as well, where you'll find little things to kind of just pick at and be like, this doesn't make sense. And it's, for the most part, I'm kind of guilty of that as well. But like, this is a movie that personally for me, I feel like if you're not on board from the get-go, if you can kind of look past some of the goofiness, you're not going to enjoy it. Same thing with like The Substance. I think if you're not on board for a lot of what's happening, and you're saying that you're watching that tonight.
Yeah.
So that's a movie that like, I remember watching it in theaters and like stuff would happen. And I was just like, wait, if this is this, then how does this work for her? Then I was like, you know what? I just got to kind of look past this. Cause if I don't, I'm not going to enjoy this. And very much so, like there's a lot of like things that could very well be plot holes, but if you can just look past it and just remember, like, this is just plot convenience, you'll have a good time. But I did find out about this. Yeah, it did premiere at Cannes in an incomplete state, it says.
Interesting.
I was going to say, I did kind of check out of this movie in the very beginning when everyone was just standing around looking at the monster swinging from the bridge. And they're like, I wonder what's going to happen. Like,
bro, they don't know. It could have been friendly.
Right.
They didn't know they thought it was an animal. They didn't know it was a monster.
That's cool. I'm going to go
eating a beer can.
And watch the news. If it's friendly, I'll go back and see it.
Connor.
I think to be fair, I think if there was really like a monster outside, a lot of people would stick around and look at it.
No, 100%. That is very accurate. Yeah,
it's like a fire, right? Like everyone goes and just watches a fire like burn a place down, and who knows if there's something in there that's like explosive that could like light those people on fire. But they're just 100%. Like, wow, entertaining death, you know.
I mean, I love sharks, and whenever they clear the beach because there's a shark in the water, everyone stands on the beach and watches.
Crazy.
Oh, 100%.
You pet sharks, man. You're. I mean, talk about living on the edge.
Sharks
We've
only
had this
bite you to
discussion.
touch their private parts.
Trust me.
Name
I
that
ain't gonna
movie.
touch
Is that
you.
true?
No,
Name
that's
the
not
movie.
true.
Is it
That's untrue.
is that Deep Blue Sea? I don't know.
No, it's from 50 First Dates.
Oh yeah, it is. I'm
But
thinking Connor's like a shark expert or something.
he is. He knows a lot of shit about shark. That's why it's called Movie Shark. He does like it's cool. He does like 50% film videos about movies and then 50% about sharks. Really cool diversity there.
Where
I
are
just had
you?
to appeal TikTok.
Where are you in terms of location, Connor?
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh wow! So I
The
thought for a
shark
second I
hotspot
was like,
of the world, right?
I thought for a second I was like, this guy's got to be on like a beach or something.
No.
I wish. No, it's funny. I do appeal to TikTok the other day because I posted like a 4-minute long tiger shark video, and like I'm trying to shift some of my shark content into like more educational, and they took it or like put a warning on it and like took it down for a bit just because I had like video footage going of a diver with National Geographic. I don't know the actual companies with, but it was from Nat Geo's Shark Fest. And he was diving with tiger sharks. And they were like, this is dangerous. And I was like, it's fucking professionals.
Yeah, it's impossible to like get around stuff like that when it comes to just like algorithms and the way that social
No, they
media
put it
works.
back up.
I mean, I'm sure that he was able to like get it back up, but it's little stuff like that that I just mean it's like they'll just flag stuff like that all the time. It's dumb.
Frustrating.
Which is funny because I didn't think that was going to be the part that brought the video down. I texted Dan. I think I sent it to Dan and Stone, and then I also sent it to Brock, asking if they were like thought it would be taken down because I had an entire section like just talking about how they reproduce, and I was like, TikTok might not like this, but
That's that flies. But
yeah,
Well, I said I just posted a video using like the I'm terrified because I don't want to like work on like a really long video, do a lot of editing. And I posted and they're like, man, we don't like that one little picture. We're gonna take it down. So I just did one about the Matrix or partially about the Matrix, and it had like that poster that has like the sack, like the red sack with like the little infant baby in it,
oh yeah,
like the little egg. And I was like, I wonder if they're gonna allow that. But they did. So I took a risk and it worked out. So I'm very
I
thankful.
was gonna say I did two promo videos for our podcast and they both got taken down.
Connor, no guns. Can't put guns in it. Oh no.
My bad.
Yeah. I will say, Van, I don't know if you've given much of your thoughts when it comes to the host just yet. Like, where are you at on this? It sounds like you're not at a 2.5.
No, I enjoy this for the most part. I will start off with saying it's been a while since I've seen this. I think I watched this when I was in high school, and kind of this was my first dive into anything Bong Joon-Ho. I think I was in this weird spot when I was in high school or like leaving high school, like that era where I would watch movies as like a director's collection. So what I would typically do is I would watch one film from a director, and if I like it, I'd keep going, and I just start from the beginning and kind of like keep going until I could watch all their stuff. And so this was one of the movies that I saw, and I remember thinking that this was the one that wasn't like the weakest to me, but it also didn't feel like it was like bad. Like I was like, this is a really solid movie. And even then it kind of feels like a Nolan thing where like if your weakest movie is following, then like you're doing something right. But at the end of the day, like this is a great movie. I think I forget that it exists pretty frequently. I forget that Bong did it pretty frequently. It's not to say it's a bad movie, but it's just one of those things where I feel like I come back to it. I'm like, oh yeah, The Host exists. It's a great movie. And somehow it's just every few months or so, it just kind of leaves my mind. I forget that he even did it, but I do want to revisit it soon. I ordered a copy of it to hopefully revisit it sometime when I get a chance. But yeah, I mean, I paid for it. I liked it enough to where I could add it to the collection. So
there you go. I would say, I think Bong's movies, like you said, you forget about it. I feel like the ones like the staples of his filmography are probably obviously Parasite, Memories of Murder, and probably Snowpiercer. I would say
Snowpiercer. I also forget he made. That's
really
one that
I would say you did say at the beginning, yeah.
I forget Snowpiercer is one that he made, and it's only because it's like now Mickey 17 is one as well, but it's the only movie that he did that was in the English language for a while.
Yeah.
And now he's done Mickey 17, and it does feel like there's a little bit more happening in Mickey 17, and that maybe is why I liked it a little bit more than Snowpiercer. But it does kind of feel again like they're movies that I forget he made. Not that I forget the movie exists, but it's like, oh wow, he did that. I forgot he did that.
Well, I was just thinking about it because I think maybe Mickey 17's probably. I think the entire thing is in English, besides whatever the alien language is. But even Snowpiercer, I think there is some Korean in it. So it's very interesting. Yeah, so that's very interesting that he's finally, or not finally, but with his new film has gone all English. I mean, having a very famous English star, I mean, works out. I mean, he had Chris Evans, but in 2014, I guess Captain America came out in 2012. No.
That would have been the same year that Winter Soldier came out.
Oh yeah, what a year! Damn. We just rewatched Winter Soldier for Brave New World. That movie's good, man. Marvel.
Chris Evans used to have good movies.
That's the Russo brothers, and I'm seeing the reviews for the Electric State. Ugh, don't look too good.
I was gonna say, I think Snowpiercer was the second international film that I had ever seen.
Oh, I wouldn't call Snowpiercer international. I feel like it's very.
That's why I put the quotes.
Okay.
That's gonna say he did kind of like get himself there.
Well, even Okja is like, I would say 50.
Oh, yeah.
I would say it's like based in Korea, but then at the end you go to New York City and there's like 2 Tilda Swintons. I mean, we're going to talk about it, but
there's a lot of English in that movie as well. It's a lot to unpack with that one too.
Yeah. But yeah, with the host, I mean, this is a lot more serious than I thought it was going to be. I mean, I've watched Godzilla -1 recently, so I know that monster movies can obviously be that. But I don't know, like with knowing or even seeing the monster the very first time, honestly, it kind of looked like just the way it's animated, it didn't look too serious. And I guess that's just of the time. But all the drama that comes with this family, like another great shot that I love is there is this after it wreaks havoc at the very beginning, there's all these pictures of all these people that have died from it, and they have the picture of the little girl. And like one by one, the family goes up and they're just weeping their eyes out. And then they all just like hysterically fall. And they're just crying and just wailing on the ground. And it's like an overhead shot. And you can see like half of the left half of the screen is them on this like white flooring. I really like the contrast of them on the white flooring. But then also you can see like flowers and the little girl's pictures and all the pictures on the right side of the screen. And I'm like, damn, this is a monster movie? Like, honestly, what I love is that it is a monster movie, but the monster's not in it that much. And I like movies like that because I'm invested in the characters. I didn't need the monster to be in it that much. And honestly, with the CGI not being the best, it kind of works out.
I think this kind of falls in the same like weird category of like Jaws being that movie where like everyone says like, oh, well, the movie works because you don't really see the shark that much. Whereas this one, it's like, you don't see the monster that much as well, kind of like you're saying, but when you do, it just looks very rough. And if you can look past that, I think this is a great movie. It's one of those movies, and it's awesome to see that there's like another monster movie that's come out of like Godzilla is like the big one that I think people think about as like a kaiju movie that people really see as an iconic movie. It's hard to think about American movies that have a monster that's really stood out and that's been memorable, but this is one that I see people constantly coming back to. Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of his better movies.
Just thinking about it, I think there is one little plot point that I don't like. That's kind of like shoehorned in, kind of halfway through, and it has big payoff at the end of the movie. And it's like these 2 brothers who are orphans, and they're trying to steal from their shack because it's like vacated because everyone has to evacuate the premises. And then those 2 brothers get taken by the monster, and one of them gets killed, but the younger one gets thrown in there with the little girl. And then it's basically the 2 of them try to escape each other. And I do like that they had the balls to, or that Bong had the balls to like kill the little girl. I mean, he's not afraid to like do stuff like that, which I'm continuing to see, which I love. But the fact that I guess it does pay off. I wish those 2 boys were introduced earlier in the movie, and maybe they were, and I just missed it. But I guess it does pay off because that's the thing is this whole movie, just like the fact that the 2 detectives in Memories of Murder, that's what the film's really about. The movie here, in my opinion, is really about this father, right? Trying to be better for his daughter. He's just a lazy piece of shit. And he's like, I'm not going to be that anymore. Like, I will do whatever it takes to get back to her because I realize just how important she is to me. He doesn't get a chance to do that at the very end for her, but the inclusion of the little boy surviving and being an orphan and now basically his child, that's some pretty powerful stuff.
Do you think maybe there was? Do you think that maybe there was anything plot line related to his thing that maybe was in a longer cut of the film and they had to cut it for time? And then maybe they were like, well, he's at the end of the movie, so we have to at least show this one scene, even if it does feel like it's shoehorned in, it still makes sense for continuity.
Yeah, it does.
That's what I see happening with a lot of movies, honestly, is that they just cut a whole plot line, but they're like, he's at the end of this movie, so we got to at least do this.
Did you watch Captain America: Brave New World?
Yes. Yeah.
Dude, I mean, everyone knows that the thing was like reshot and cut to pieces, but we talked about it. There's like, when we discussed it, there's one obvious, like, something was cut moment of the movie, and it's when you see the Israeli Black Widow for the first time. Like, you see her in that room, and me and Dan just said this, like, I thought she was the one shooting Ross, because like, when the camera focuses on her, it's like we're supposed to know who she is, but that's the very first time we've ever seen her in the room. And it's like, I think there was like some scene of her introducing herself, and maybe because of the backlash they got for the character, they eliminated some of the stuff she said and just ripped it out. And then you just see her in that room. We're like, we don't know who the fuck this person is.
Frankenstein of a movie, but that's kind of what happens when you have that kind of thing, unfortunately. And it is, like I said, like there was a version of this that was at Cannes that was a little bit longer. I can't find anything that says how much longer it was, and maybe there's a little bit more confirmation there about that plot line. But that's what I see with a lot of movies where like something shows up at the end or something feels like it's shoehorned in. It's just like they just had to shoot it that way because they shot it on that day. They can't address it. Like, imagine if they don't have that scene about the kids, and then all of a sudden it's just this guy with the girl. Like, that wouldn't make any sense. So yeah, it might feel shoehorned in, but it makes more sense for continuity. I think personally, maybe what happened is there was a plot line that was cut.
Yeah, it's just the timing. It's the fact that it happens, like, I think probably you see them for the first time, the two boys, probably 50 minutes into the film, maybe an hour. It's just like, I feel like that's too late to introduce like new characters.
Do you think that it would be a better experience if they kind of sprinkled more of like his stuff throughout the movie?
Yeah, I mean, even like maybe they could have been friends at school or something like that, because she comes from school at the very beginning. So maybe that's where the scene was cut. Like, she actually had a connection with this boy. I don't know. Could have been something. Could have made the impact of them like trying to flee the monster together even more powerful. But Connor, did you have any more gripes with the movie besides like the stuff doesn't necessarily make sense? Which I don't pay attention to that, at least when it came to this movie. But I respect. I mean, everything you say makes sense. But
I'll give you some positives.
All right.
I can't decide which one I think is the better scene in the movie. So one, the final shot, where it's the American news anchors basically lying to the news about what had happened.
Well, I don't think that's the final shot. I'm not trying to be like critiquey or anything. I was gonna say I do like that 100% because it literally says misinformation. But I think the last shot of the movie, which I really like, is the little like shack, and it's like snowing, and it's like the little shack is just super tiny on the screen. But carry on. I'm so sorry, but I wanted to say that I love that shot.
You know what scene I'm talking about? It's the American news lying to everyone, like, oh, whatever. But honestly, I think the best scene in the movie, which I did really enjoy, and it did pull me back into the movie a little bit, was when I'm blanking on his name, but the main character is asleep in the shack, and the grandpa is kind of like reprimanding the sister and cousin, about giving him a hard time and basically like explaining everything that he's gone through. And he's like, you guys need to cut him some slack. And he's like, you're fucked up for what you said to him about how could you not grab your own daughter's hand? But I think that scene was really good.
That reminded me, there's also another scene in the shack too, which is probably maybe my favorite scene because it's so simple. It's kind of like a dream sequence. You see the four of them. So it's not the cousin. They're all siblings. So it's like two brothers and a sister. If he was a brother or a cousin. Yeah, and the dad. But they're all sitting there at the shack together, and you're just assuming this is them currently now eating, right? but then all of a sudden the little girl walks up and they just acknowledge her. And I thought like they were going to acknowledge that it was a dream, or they were going to be like, is she actually there, kind of a thing. But they're just sitting there quietly, just all eating. None of them, they don't say a single word. They literally just keep on like handing her food, and she's so excited to eat it. And then all of a sudden that scene just cuts, and you're back to reality. I thought that was just an interesting choice to just sneak that in. Like this is what would be happening right now. This is the perfect life, and you don't get that at the end, which is such a ballsy move. This is a sad ending, kind of, and I just love that. I love sad endings.
This means take some risks.
He takes risks. I mean,
I do remember thinking that when I watched, I was like, "Dang, this is a ballsy movie."
Very much so. And then I think they call it like the yellow fever, I think, which is a real thing. But the thing they get from the United States that they're just dumping on the Korean people, that's like this pesticide that's supposed to kill biochemical things in the air, or just, I guess, just this monster. Another great visual. Okay. It's not yellow fever, because
no,
that's a real thing.
The only reason I'm like looking at, I'm like reading about like this thing at Cannes, and I'm trying to see if there's anything more I can find on it. But to release a toxic chemical called Agent Yellow around the river to kill the monster. That's what I see. And it's like, as you said, I connected with the words.
Yeah, but Agent Yellow, like at the end, there's like these they literally look like they drop like bombs of smoke. And sorry, like I said, best looking film. When that hits the ground and it just engulfs the entire screen, and the characters are just walking in front of it or getting engulfed by it, man, that makes me happy. It just looks good. This movie looks good. I'm sorry.
So what do you have this rating down?
Right now at a 4.5. It's just, like I said, I think it's a really effective monster movie. I really connected with the family. I don't mind that the dad is a big bumbling idiot, because that's his character and he's trying to be better. I mean, he gets very much punished for being an idiot. His daughter dies. His father dies because of him, you know? I thought the inclusion of everything about lying about a virus was unexpected, as was the police brutality element of Memories of Murder. A very welcomed surprise in this film. But yeah, I think also the ending's awesome. How they kill the monster, they light it on fire, and it's charging for the water, and he just comes out of nowhere with like a fucking rod and just stabs it. Like, that was really cool. I'm a simple guy. If stuff looks cool, I'm like, hey man, that was an entertaining movie.
Also, not a chance in hell he could have lifted that fucking sign with the big ass concrete block on the bottom.
I did think that. I was like, holy shit.
Now, in my head, I justified it a little, because adrenaline is a crazy thing that can make you do like inhumane things sometimes. So maybe, but.
Can I just mention one detail that just Bong included that I feel like other people would include? Is something I noticed at the very end. Stop. At the very end, when he stabs the monster, right, with the pole, he like lets go, and you can see the imprint of the pole in his hand.
That was good.
Didn't have to do that, but I was like, that's cool. Like
that
I
said, was good.
That's cool. But thank you, appreciate it. What do you got this at, Van? What do you got it rated as?
Right now, I have it at a 4, but I want it to be known that I have it at a 4, mainly just because whenever I got Letterboxd a few years ago, I just went through and rated a bunch of movies. If I went back and watched this now, I think it'd probably be closer to like a 3.5, maybe a 3. But I do really enjoy this movie. It's been a long time since I've seen it. I do remember really liking it, but the more I think about it, it just kind of fades from my memory. You guys are talking about all these scenes that I'm like, oh yeah, that's a really good scene. Like, I really liked this movie when I watched it. I remember really liking a lot of the writing. To Connor's point, I do kind of fall in line a little bit more with like, this has got some really dumb moments, but if you can kind of just have fun with it, there's a lot there as well. It does kind of feel a little bit more satirical than I think people give it credit for. Like, yeah, it's got a lot of moments where we see that he's like a bumbling idiot and that's his character. But I don't know. I kind of see this as like a satirical take on like the Jaws kind of story. We see a little bit more satire in the political sense, and it definitely feels like he's making fun of America quite a bit. And that's something that we feel a lot with like Mickey 17 as well. So I don't know. Maybe it's even with Okja. Yeah, like maybe this is just something that we're seeing through the lens of like a filmmaker, like being very upfront with, this is how America sees you guys, or this is how Korea sees you guys. This is how I see you guys. But I don't know. This is good. I really like this. I do think if I wanted to revisit it, I probably would have some more in-depth thoughts. But from what I have right now and from what I remember, I really enjoy this movie.
Yeah.
I also don't remember how bad the like monster looks. So
yeah, I was waiting for you to like. I'm scared for you to rewatch it because you're like, oh, these good scenes. I don't remember, but then you're like, I don't remember how the CGI looks. I'm like, oh.
Here's my solution to this though. If I go back and watch this and I feel like the monster looks crap, just bringing that saturation down and I'm playing out like The Mist.
Black and white, baby. I will say, I did like at the very end, this is refreshing because I always look for this. At the very end, when they're getting up close and personal, it does look like they use something practical, some type of machinery for the beast, some type of puppet. And I was like,
my guess
like
is there's probably like a good mix of both. Because I'm reading a little bit about it and it says that like the creature was in collaboration. It was made with drawings like concept art design.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily say how they were able to like create it.
I would say I think it's almost all CGI until the very end. It's just him running a whole lot and like falling from bridges. So that's mainly all you get.
Too. Weta and ILM. But
so
didn't have a huge
it's
budget,
just
though.
yeah, and it's just of the times too, like 2006. It's just, I mean, I will say Davy Jones was in like near 2006. I think Dead Man's Chest came out in 2004, 2005. So that's what everyone compares CGI to all the time.
But then we also had so much money attached to it.
Yeah, it's very true. And then also, I think the thing too that people forget about visual effects is it's so important, which is why I'm somewhat excited for Jurassic World Rebirth, is the fact that you need to have a director who knows what type of visual effects they want and basically can frame a movie perfectly to incorporate their exact design or look they want. Because like Gareth Edwards was a visual effects artist. Like he did Monsters, I believe is the name of the movie. He did all the visual effects for that film in 2010. I believe he came out with that movie. So, what movie? Yeah, I don't know if Bong Joon-Ho was necessarily one, but I know that I think Gore Verbinski also did visual effects. So I think that's the reason why the Pirates of the Caribbean films look so good. He does have a background in that. He knew exactly what to do to make it look as best as possible. So maybe Bong will get there. I mean, with the creepers didn't look that bad.
No, they look good.
You didn't get a creeper, did you? You didn't get a creeper, did you? Like a little stuffed creeper?
No, dude. I mean, that screening was a weird experience. Whenever the movie, okay, so for a little bit of context, I went to go see A Complete Unknown at the same place where I went to go see Mickey 17, and I didn't get in just because there was so many people there, and I was like, man, there's never this many people here for a screening like this. And I found out later that night that Timothée Chalamet was there, and it's because he was at that UGA game. And so before we walked into the movie, they told everybody like, hey guys, stick around. We have a huge surprise for you. And everybody was talking. They're like, there's no way like they got Pattinson here. There's no way they got Bong Joon-Ho here. And I was like, I don't think it's either of them. I don't know what they could be hinting at. And then the movie was over and everybody kind of made their way to a line. And I thought, what is this line for? And they said that they're giving out food. And it was literally like a single chicken tender. And so I got this shirt, but that was it, really.
Yeah, maybe not worth it.
I wish I was joking, but people were walking back from the line, and I was like, "What are they giving out?" And they were like, "It's a chicken tender." And I was like, "Are you like joking? Like a single chicken tender?" But
it's funny because I don't know why, but I popped on my mind that it might have looked like a creeper, and I was like, I think that goes against the messaging of the movie for us to like eat something that looks like creepers at the very end.
I will say that they were very adamant about getting some sauce. They were like, get some sauce for this.
Well, speaking of possibly eating creatures, Connor, do you want to go into your movie? What a segue that was.
That was a good segue, though. I liked it.
Okja, man. Jake Gyllenhaal, Connor. You finally got to watch it. What did you think about Mr. G? What did you think about the Super Pigs?
Yeah.
What's it about? What's the movie about?
Yeah. We'll give the brief synopsis, but basically, big corporation sees the impending doom of overpopulation, and they need to do something for a food source. So they genetically modify pigs to become these super pigs. They send them out to, I think it was 22 farmers across the globe. And then in 10 years' time, they're going to come back to collect. So then flash forward 10 years, we're in Korea with this older gentleman and this little girl who have the pig Okja. I really picked this because it's one of the few Gyllenhaal movies I haven't seen. The big ones I'm still missing is probably Source Code, End of Watch, and Prince of Persia.
Interesting.
And also, there's this like weird discourse around Gyllenhaal nowadays that like anything he's done past like 2015 like just hasn't been good, which I completely disagree with.
He's had some good movies since then.
Yeah, I mean, him and Gosling, because Gosling too seems like he's kind of doing paycheck films, maybe like he's gonna star in Star Wars. But
Gosling talks about that because he said like movies like Drive and Blade Runner and stuff like those real dramatic films was like kind of affecting his mental health and how he interacted with his family, and that's why
because he has kids now, right? Yeah, I remember that.
So that makes sense.
That's how he kind of unwinds.
Yeah.
Did you like Wildlife?
What's up?
Wildlife. Have you seen Wildlife?
I have not.
I feel like you'd probably like that if you like Gyllenhaal, but he's not in it for very long, so I don't know actually how to think about it, but he's in Wildlife and he's great in it. Paul Dano directed it.
But I mean, I'm looking at Letterboxd and everything Gyllenhaal's done like post 2015, and like I like Southpaw. Everest was good. Nocturnal Animals is really good. Okja is good. Stronger, I think, is not a great movie, but I think Gyllenhaal is great in it. Wildlife is good. People are obviously very indifferent on the Spider-Man movie he's in. I like it. Probably biased. The Guilty is underappreciated. Ambulance is fun. The Covenant's very good. And I think he did Roadhouse because it was just going to be fun for him. You can say what you want about that movie. I understand it's terrible. He had fun with it. And then now he's in The Bride this year. So we'll see how that is.
I'm excited to see The Bride.
I wanted to say one thing. I brought up Ryan Gosling and that he's doing paycheck movies, but I will say he's coming out with a movie. I don't think it'll come out this year. It'll probably come out next year, but that I'm really excited for it. I don't think people understand like how good the movie can possibly be, but it's like Project Hail Mary. I did a video on it, but do you know who's attached to that movie, Van?
I feel like I saw.
So it's Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, who are the guys who do Spider-Verse.
The filmmakers, yeah.
And they also did I guess Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, but they did the Jump Street movies too, right? Yeah. So they're directing it. Drew Goddard is writing it, who did The Martian, Cabin in the Woods, and he was really heavily involved with Lost, which I'm a big fan of Lost, so that makes me so excited. But then also, I was gonna say, Craig Fraser is doing the cinematography, and it's like a space movie. So I'm like, I'm here, kind of a thing. And then it's also got Sandra Hüller and then Ryan Gosling. So 2 Oscar-nominated people right after Oscars being in a movie together. Sounds like a good time. But anyways, that's all I want to say. I'm really excited for that movie. I read the book too. A lot of The Martian in it, though. That's a lot of math.
I'm looking at the cast right now. It looks nice. Sandra Hüller's in it.
Yeah. So,
Stone, you asked me about Gyllenhaal in this movie. It's like I just said. Seems like he has a lot of fun with this role. He is cracking me up basically the entire time. But also it's like feels like a pretty real thing. That he is this TV personality that's pretty well liked, it seems like, and then off screen he's just kind of a douchebag about himself. Funny enough, that ties in pretty well to Cincinnati because we have a weatherman who's been a weatherman for a long time. His son played on my brother's baseball team, so kind of knew him personally as well. And recently they were in the news because they hit someone's vehicle in a parking lot at a nicer restaurant around here and then ended up beating the shit out of like an elderly couple. So
what a pair there.
Yeah, it ties in. TV personality, it seems. Anyway, I'll let you go, Stone. What do you think of this movie? Because this was your first time watch as well, right? No.
Yeah, I'd seen it before, but I just had an interesting thought because I would say one thing I really like about Gyllenhaal in this, which I think he doesn't necessarily do really ever that often, is he's kind of putting on a voice acting performance a little bit. He alters his voice. It just sounds like a lot higher than what his tone is. But I hate to say that or I don't like that I'm having this thought, but just after watching Mickey 17, I'm kind of thinking like, what would Robert Pattinson have done if he was like Jake Gyllenhaal's role in this? Because that guy just like he really just goes all in on everything. And the thing is, he doesn't sound like himself. Like he's so good at doing those voices, man. I know you haven't watched the movie yet, but it's really exceptional. Just
Yeah,
and
but
I
he's
feel like
good in
nope.
his other films too.
And Pattinson, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. I
Yeah.
wish Gyllenhaal didn't sound like himself. He's still, even though his tone is different. I don't know if he has that in his like skill set. If he can do that, would have been really cool. But I will say, just the fact of him changing his tone just a little bit made me just love his performance even more because I think that was probably a lot of Bong as well. He's like, I need you to go this extra mile because Jake could have had, could have done his wacky, crazy self, but I think he really just takes over the role just by having that little touch in it. He's probably my favorite part of the movie, to be honest, and that probably makes you happy. But this movie's dark as hell, and like I said, all of Bong's movies are like that, especially towards the end. And I don't think people are like prepared for that. I would say honestly, out of all these movies we're talking about, probably Mickey 17 is the most light-hearted, but still, I mean, people were crying after that movie. So Bong doesn't mess around, even with giant old pigs.
I was gonna say this one feels like the biggest in-your-face narrative about society, which I think I was texting you about Stone, and then also I think you read my Letterboxd review because like it's the billionaire CEO who is doing this whole thing for the world, and then like is really just a piece of shit, garbage human behind the scenes. Again with the TV reporter, again with like activists like coming out to like fight for these animals. All of it seems like very in your face, and like sometimes in a movie I don't like when messages like that are so in your face. This one I didn't mind. Also I didn't realize how stacked this cast was. Like I had
when
no idea.
that van opens up and all these people just like jump out, like, oh, Paul Dano, oh, Stephen Young, what's up, guys?
Yeah,
I think
like
isn't
I didn't know.
Lily Collins? Yeah, isn't she one
Yeah.
too? Yeah.
I'm looking at the
Yeah,
cast
Lily
right now.
Collins,
It's
Stephen
a
Young.
great cast.
I didn't even know Tilda Swinton was in this. Like
Oh, Tilda, one of returning from after her Snowpiercer performance. Love it. But Van,
yeah, I
what are your
can't
thoughts on
believe
Okja?
Man, I feel like I want to revisit this like immediately. Like I'm looking at this cast and I'm like, man, I remember this movie being a lot of fun. I do think between the three that we talked about, Memories of Murder, The Host, and this one, this is probably the weakest one out of the three, and it's like a huge like difference. I think this is probably at a 3.5 for me, but this is again like you're touching a lot of the things that I think is also really what I liked about it. It feels very gentle at times. It feels very energetic at times. It's got a good balance of a few different tones, and the cast is stacked. I mean, you got Tilda Swinton, Paul Dano, Giancarlo Esposito, Stephen Yeun, I forget is in this as well. Lily Collins. But I mean, there's just something with this movie I think that kind of encapsulates a good balance of all of the themes that we've seen from Bong Joon-Ho, even more so than Mickey 17. Like you have all of the environmentalism aspect, you have a good amount of the comedy. It's very in your face with a lot of what it's trying to say. And I know that you're saying for you, Connor, like that doesn't always work for you. For me, the more in your face it gets, I think depending on who it is that's making it, I can kind of really appreciate that. I was a big Megalopolis defender and I'm big on Southland Tales as well. But I mean,
Dude,
I think this is
Dan loved that movie, by the way.
oh,
What
really?
did we do for the Rock episode? I had never even heard that movie is insane. I saw your picture, you had a picture of the director, right?
Yeah, Richard Kelly. That was the first time I watched it as well. And so I didn't know what to expect. The first time I watched it, I did not love it, but I've gone back and watched it a few times, but I've really come to love that movie. But yeah, I mean,
It is a lot of a movie.
it is. That's also a movie that premiered at Cannes, which I'm looking at now with Okja, also premiered at Cannes. All three movies that we talked about premiered there. But yeah, I mean, it's just this movie feels like it's very cozy at times, but also feels very energetic. It's Jake Gyllenhaal is the standout, which isn't something that I typically see with Tilda Swinton being in a cast, like her not being the standout for me. And Jake Gyllenhaal as well. Like, you guys are talking about a lot of the performance. I love his character design. I love his outfits. I love seeing, like, I'm going through the pictures of the film and like the cast, and he's just every single picture is just him having a blast.
Yep.
And that just makes you want to revisit this whole thing. Like, it feels like probably the most accessible movie that he's made, maybe from any, like, for American audiences. Like, if I wanted to introduce someone to Bong Joon-Ho and say, like, this is kind of what this guy tackles well, I would say watch Okja and then Parasite, because you start them off with Parasite, they're going to expect another Parasite.
Yep. Well, you said most accessible because I think figuratively and literally, because this is a Netflix movie. So, like, basically everybody can watch it.
I forget this is a Netflix movie. I actually didn't watch this until it hit the Criterion Collection.
Oh, I forgot it is on Criterion.
I own it, so I'm not big on streaming. I remember that it got a small theatrical release, and I missed it, unfortunately. So this was one I actually waited for a little bit longer than everybody else.
It was super fun because, like, I've been trying to write down notes as I'm watching movies now to, like, bring up in the episodes, and I totally forgot to do that on Memories of Murder and The Host. But one of my notes on Okja that I wrote, and, like, in the beginning or, like, in the middle of the film, it, like, almost took me out of the movie because it bothered me that there was zero hesitation from Mija, or Mija, however you properly pronounce it, that she was going to send Okja to America. And then, like, 45 minutes later in the movie, Bong Joon-Ho brings it back, and Steven Yeun's character was like, yeah, I lied to her and said that Okja could go back to the farm with her, and that's why she agreed so quickly. So I, like, love how he brought that back.
I would say for me, this movie, so you kind of mentioned it a little bit there, Connor, but I have two big, huge issues with this movie, and it's not necessarily even like CinemaSins. Like, I think it's stuff I kind of can't get over, and especially so on this rewatch, I noticed it even more. I will say one thing when you mentioned it, Dan. I wanted to say Giancarlo Esposito is in this. He is the most like let's just cast a famous person role ever. His character barely does anything.
No, I know he's the one actor that's kind of like, you could have gotten anyone for this. He's here, whatever.
And I would say also Lily Collins, but Lily Collins is like not as famous as Giancarlo Esposito, so it's fine that she's kind of just like chilling in this activist group. But Connor, what do you think about her grandfather, Misha's grandfather, and also the activists in general, and how they treat Okja?
Her grandfather is one that, like, I have a hard time kind of making a critique on or, like, judging, because, like, I understand maybe not telling her why they have Okja and the final plans for him, because it is a child, and, like, this child's been with them. She's maybe 12 in this, maybe. So trying to explain to her throughout this, like, her life at that young of an age would be something so difficult for a child, especially, to understand. But then at the same time, you could also be like, hey, this is how the world works. Like, Okja is serving a purpose. So it's hard to, like, kind of critique. I think it's kind of a shitty move that when they are going to take Okja, the way to distract her is, let's go see your dead parents, and I got you this gold pig. Like,
interesting enough, I mean, that brings up a good point, is that they have him for like 10 years before they do anything with him.
Yeah.
Is that how long it is? 10
I will
years.
say,
yeah. So she's got to be like 11 or 12.
Years.
She's basically grown up her whole life with this thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, how do you do that?
Yeah. Well, and then go ahead.
I'll say I have like one rebuttal to what you, like, the first thing I asked you, and you just said what you said, is the fact that I like that you said, hey, he did it because she was a kid, right? Which makes sense, right? She might not necessarily understand, but when you use that answer for that maybe moral dilemma, then later on they're trying to convince him that Misha is going to be like this iconic figure in America. Like, she's going to be the face of like this pig program, this Okja. Like, she's like, we're going to use her and she's going to be like a celebrity, right? And I think if you care about your children, you shouldn't put them, obviously it's not his child, but if he cares about her, he shouldn't put her in that situation. but they talk about like the money, and he's like, oh, like tell me more kind of a face. So that makes me not like him. And then that's never addressed again. They just sit and eat soup at the very end of the movie. I'm like, I don't like this motherfucker. So sorry, Grandpa. I mean, you seem like a sometimes kind guy. But anyways, what do you think about the activists?
You're 100% right. The activists, I'd say for the most part, I really enjoyed them all. Obviously, very extreme activists, like causing violence and riots, and but they were making me laugh the entire time. Like how they're so nice. Like they're like, buckle up, as they were about to like just ram into the truck. Like, it seems like you're disagreeing with everything I'm saying right now, Stone.
I'm so sorry. I'm not disagreeing with specifically what you're saying, but like I'm so sorry that you can like read my facial expression. Don't stare at my face. Sorry, I'm just my thoughts come out on it. But
I'm sorry, Stone. Sometimes I just have to look at your face, even off.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I would say I think it runs into a problem that I don't like with activist group that literally happens, and it's the fact that they're more focused on getting a message out there than actually caring about what they're fighting for. So they literally.
I don't know if that's true with this group though.
They literally cause harm to Okja. They send him. They're like, oh, we know nothing bad is going to happen to him, but let's send her into this sketchy place. And she literally gets like, I guess raped by another, super pig. And then like Jake Gyllenhaal takes meat chunks out of her. And I was like, you motherfuckers, I'm using that term again. Like you did this to her. Like go in there and, risk your own skin and try to get videos of what's going on. Don't use what you're like an animal to do it.
I hear you. But you can literally see the regret on their face as they're watching what happened. And they talk about it and they like have to walk away from the video. Like they didn't know this bad shit was going to happen. Like this bad.
Well, they should have planned better. They should have done their research.
Okay. But they don't know what goes on behind those closed doors. That's why they need this.
Then why would they even say it in the first place? Why would they even be like, oh yeah, Okja's going to be safe if they have no idea what goes on behind there? Right? How can you even say that Okja is going to be safe? That's why they want to send her back there. Why would they even bring that up at all? You have no clue. That's a flaw. That is a plot hole. How on earth could they even know what's going to happen to Okja, that Okja would be safe if they're literally trying to get video of what goes on back there?
It's not a plot hole, more or less. It's more investigating.
I'm kind of a little bit not necessarily on Connor's side here, but I do think that they were probably trying to do the right thing by trying to gather evidence to prove a point. But also, they really don't know. It's like you're saying, like, to your point, they don't know what goes on beyond those doors. And so them finally seeing it for the first time, they're like, oh, we probably shouldn't have done that. So, yeah, those activists are very extreme in the film. I also don't know if they really had a plan, and I think that's the whole point of the story, is that like they're so focused on more or less what you're saying, and it comes to a point where I think that's a little bit more on the moral of the film. Like it's trying to make a point about like everyone's trying to do the right thing, but no one really knows how to do it.
Right. I think maybe Bong knows that. Like I'm supposed to feel this way about the activists, but towards the end, right, I think they're more looked at as the heroes. And it's tough for me to see them that way, I guess, just because of the flaws they did earlier in the movie. Like I really take, issue with that. Okay. But I will say, I will say something that helps, your point in like liking them more than me is the fact that they did have the reasoning that Okja would be completely fine because they have to literally show Okja to a crowd. So like they're not going to kill Okja, right? They're not going to physically harm her, even though you can literally see when she goes out on the stage in the middle of the street, like the circles where Jake Gyllenhaal literally like punctured her. But yeah. So,
but let me pose this question to you then, Stone, because obviously I forget the name of the company that started this whole project that Tilda Swinton is in charge of. But because of this activist group and doing this with Okja, getting this film, or like this, capturing all this shit that happens behind closed doors, that company's like decimated now, basically. And they see how fucked up it is, and the entire public has turned against them. So was it worth the risk to take down this horrible evil company?
Yeah, that's a good
Because,
question.
like you said,
hypothetically, if like let's say the film goes on and then we see that the company has completely been decimated, are the risks, do they outweigh the guilt that those activists might have felt?
I mean, put it really simple, illustration here. Say like, obviously animal activists have a problem with people killing chickens and eating chicken, right? And let's say they're able to eliminate that from the world, but the only way they can do it is by killing one chicken. Is it worth it? Is it worth going against the exact, like putting an animal in harm's way to save other animals? You kind of go against your principles, in my opinion. It's a tough dilemma. I mean, that's maybe what Bong Joon-Ho is trying to.
But there's a different story there, because if you're saying that, then that would mean that, like, hypothetically, if they killed Okja, would that serve the greater purpose? We're not killing Okja. You're killing a chicken. You're putting the chicken in harm's way, yes. And this is kind of the analogy that I think you're going for. But I think there's still some gray area there.
Yeah, I don't know, it's tough.
Let's put this in more reality, Stone. I post videos a good amount that don't do many views, probably because TikTok hates me, of sharks getting beaten and their fins cut off because the general public doesn't see that. And the more people see it, like great news this week in shark news, is Costa Rica has officially banned shark finning because more and more people are seeing that content.
Well, yeah, but you didn't put the sharks in that situation. So that's just, I mean, I don't know. It's like I said, they didn't know what was going to happen, but they knew nothing good was going to happen, kind of a thing. So
it's
tough. Like you said, they knew they wouldn't kill Okja. Yeah, some harm came, but
I don't know. Maybe we should ask Okja how she feels. I'm sure she'd be like, I would have been fine, just not doing all that stuff.
Let's have her on.
Yeah. I'll say one other gripe I had. I don't like how quickly Steven Yeun's like, oh yeah, I lied. Like it's right after that. I think they should like maybe extended that just a little bit, because obviously I knew that Steven Yeun was going to say something after they saw the video of Okja, but obviously I knew he was going to confess at some point. But it's literally like you see the video and he's like, guys, I lied. I was like, okay, well that cat's out of the bag already. So I thought that was really quick, and I think they could have extended that a little bit more and maybe gave you more context and characterization to the activists, give them a little bit more character than we got in that little moment. But yeah, they're just kind of quick with that one little plot point.
Yeah, I don't hate that take at all. There's a scene that like obviously he made to stand out. Everyone probably recognizes the scene if you've seen this, but when I think they're still in Korea at this point, when Mija is on the staircase with everyone in like gray and black and she's in this bright red. I might be reading too much into this, but like obviously that's to find her in the crowd really easily and she stands out. But also like in my head, I was like, yo, that kind of like shows like how much like hope and inspiration like children have compared to like the everyday adult who's just going to their 9 to 5 to make a paycheck. And I really like that scene a lot.
Yeah, I like that too. That like visually too, and what you're saying. Yeah, I agree with that.
And it's like you said on the host, like it's the overhead shot showing everything.
I will say you made me think of a point in the movie I don't like. Towards the beginning, I think it's just an unnecessary scene. I think it's kind of like, in a way, an action-y scene, and it doesn't need to be there.
If we're gonna be honest here,
But it's like she like falls off this cliff, and like Okja like tries to save her and doesn't. Okja weighs like 30 million pounds, and he's getting like dragged down by this. She's getting like dragged down by this little girl off this cliff. Now I know her footing is kind of slipping, but I'm like, it is at an angle, but I don't know. Okja's, and I think it's just like that was unnecessary because what they're doing is they're showing you just how close they are. Their relationship, right, and what they've been through, I guess. But even before that, I thought they did an excellent job of just showing their closeness and everything. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it is a slope, but it also seemed like to me that she was maybe dragging Okja down. I don't know, maybe just how the way it was filmed or animated, something like that. But
you dragged me down.
No, man, I lift you up, Hunter. What do you have this rated as? I'll lift you up.
Hold on. I'm not there yet.
Oh,
because we haven't even talked about the ending.
Dark.
Yeah. One, Bong Joon-Ho already made it super dark and like fairly emotional that you're just seeing these pigs get offed left and right, and they're all just like in this like line to just get unalived. And then like so like you're already like, man, this is sad as fuck, dog. And then it literally shows two of the pigs bringing their child and like throwing it through the fence to try and be saved. Like it
That felt
literally
like
felt like it felt like a scene out of like a Holocaust movie.
jeez. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's what he's going for, but it made me think of just the end of The Host, right? It's like you can have this child that's not your child, kind of a thing. I don't know. This popped in my head.
Except
Kind
better
of similar.
executed here.
Okay. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, it gets really dark. I mean, that's all we keep on saying about these movies. Like I said, I think Mickey 17 is the lightest, but it still goes there.
Yeah. But I have this at a 4-star.
I had it a 4-star, dropped 3.5. And I think Van, you said you had 3.5?
I'm at a 3.5. There's a lot I like about this movie. And I do want to revisit it just because us talking about it's kind of really made me remember how much I really like this movie. For the most part, I agree with a lot of both of your points. There is a few things that I think don't really work for me here. I think tonally it kind of clashes a little bit because it's trying to say something very, very profound. And I think that was a lot of Mickey 17 didn't work for me, as well as that it clashes tonally quite a bit. And that's not to say that totally, you can't have two different things going on, but it feels like there's an unbalance there. Both of these movies, Mickey 17, Okja, and I'd even say Snowpiercer for the most part, they kind of feel like they exist in this weird realm of like science fiction, like near distant future. Like it's not too far off from what we experience. Like it's like a subtle future. And so I think that's why so much of these movies feel like they work in this realm of Bong Joon-Ho's like universes, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
Mickey 17 and Okja almost feel like they live in the same universe, maybe in different timelines, but for the most part, I really enjoy this movie. I really like it. I remember seeing Mickey 17 and thinking like, wow, that's more like Okja than I expected it was going to be in a very different way. Mickey definitely leans into the humor a lot more, and it definitely leans into showing us a lot more of like the world that it's in. Whereas this one feels like there's less of the world that it's in, and there's also a lot more nuance to the story. The whole conversation that was had about the activists and the gray area that was there. I think a lot of that is the interesting part to me, because you are realizing that there's some people there that are there for the right reasons. There's some people there that are there just to take down a corporation. And it's cool to see that. I think it could have been a bit longer if we were going to dive into that a little bit more, but I like this movie for the most part. I do think it's the weakest out of the ones that we talked about today, but it's the one I'm most excited to revisit.
Yeah, I'll say when you talk about tonally, like I totally agree. And it's exactly, you said it earlier, but why I think Parasite's so good, because it just blends the comedy and the drama and the horror like all perfectly so well. I mean, the one scene that I'm thinking of is like, the scene of like the brother and sister trying to get Wi-Fi, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or try to get signal, and they're literally on top of like the toilet, like that's like overflowing or something like that. Like that's both sad and funny at the exact same time, and you can realize it like it has a cohesiveness to it that you can realize at the exact same time, but it doesn't feel like a different movie.
Yeah.
You're showing two different things. You're having two different reactions, but it just feels so concise. So yeah, I totally agree with that. But you want to get into Mr. Pattinson? Wait, hold on. What?
Before we do that, I gotta hop off early, so I'm gonna throw my movie recommendation out here already that I was texting Stone about. The Big Short. I absolutely adore this movie.
Van, we recommend movies at the end of the episode. That's what he's doing.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So for our audience, one, when I'm not watching movies, reading about sharks, being a husband and father, I'm reading on like stock market and finances, and like my wife makes fun of me because every book I read is based on that. Literally right now I'm reading The Intelligent Investor. And I adore that movie. I think one of the best parts of it is the fact that they're explaining shit that not the everyday person knows, and they'll just throw in random celebrities like Selena Gomez, Anthony Bourdain, and Margot Robbie to be like, hey, here's it in Barney style terms. and I adore that movie. I also think right now, with how down the American stock market is a good time to invest. Also, look at European manufacturing companies because they're worried that Elon wants to pull out of NATO, that they are pumping money into that to up their manufacturing. And I'm already invested in one that's up 230% in the last 2 weeks. So,
damn,
that's my 2 cents.
There you go.
Big Short's a great movie.
Yeah,
Adam McKay,
I love the Big
right?
Short. Stone, I want
Adam
you to
McKay?
rewatch it.
I will rewatch it. I watched it on a plane. I told Connor I watched it on a plane, and I'm not really into stocks and everything. So I appreciated a lot of the explaining scenes, but then also I was kind of distracted a little bit on the plane. So
I always have a rule with movies on a plane. Like, you do not want to watch something that you have not watched before, or that you want to watch at least. Yeah,
or you don't even have to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Also, how can that not make you want to watch the movie?
Margot Robbie, aren't you about to leave with your wife?
Yeah.
But
first off,
great recommendation.
If you're with someone and you can't admit that other people are attractive in the world, I feel like you shouldn't be with that person.
I mean, I do it all the time. Me and my wife do it all the time. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Yeah. Anyway, but Van, I appreciate you being on.
Absolutely. Nice meeting you.
Conversation about Mickey 17.
So, Mickey 17. I mean, this was my most anticipated movie, just because obviously of it coming right off of Parasite, and then also starring Pattinson. He's a new actor working with Bong Joon-Ho, and I think he's just been on an absolutely insane run, just choosing really unique roles, and this really fit into it. So I think, and people have been, realizing just how much talent he has. And when the context of what this movie was going to be about came out, I think Bong, the story, Pattinson, everyone just got really pumped for it. And then all the production questions came factoring in. And it's like, does Warner Brothers want to release this? Does Bong have the final cut? Are they going to scrap it like other movies they've done, which would have been a travesty? Moving the release date and everything like that, which I find really poetic because of when it came out and the fact that literally Bong has said, obviously people are like, not spoiler or full spoiling, but Mark Ruffalo's character reminds a lot of people of Trump, obviously, and even Elon Musk. And Bong's like, guys, I was making this back in 2022. I did not mean for this to happen. It just kind of happened that way. Which I think it's really fitting, though. It kind of worked out perfectly. But you said that, tonally, I think people know what this movie's about. Basically, just Robert Pattinson gets copied for, I guess it's not necessarily a corporation. It's more like a cult. Like, all these people kind of follow Mark Ruffalo's, which is an ex-political leader, and something's wrong with Earth, and they have to move and try to live somewhere else, and they just use Pattinson as an expendable and just make him do dangerous missions for their own pleasure. And
it feels kind of like he's in this weird gray area where it's not like a corporation, but also like tied to government. Like, it almost feels, and it kind of is obvious what I'm going to say here, but like he's in this weird world where he works for Elon Musk and he's under the control of somebody like Donald Trump.
Definitely. But yeah, it's just like, so I don't know. You said that the tonally didn't work for you. And
tonally, I think if I rewatch it, I might appreciate it a little bit more. But one of the big things that just didn't really work for me was the tone, and I think it clashes quite a bit. It's not to say it's a bad film or anything like that. I had a lot of fun with it. The first hour felt a bit directionless and a bit aimless at times. Like, I was wondering, where's the story going? Because clearly there's two of you. There can only be one. And I thought clearly this is going to be a story about getting rid of the other one. And then it wasn't. And so a lot more of the story kind of began unveiling itself, along with all the stuff with Mark Ruffalo, along with Toni Collette's character. And I think the more and more the film unraveled itself, the more it felt like, okay, so we're doing Snowpiercer again. We're doing Okja again. We're doing this movie again, but then it wasn't. And so it kind of felt like we were getting conflicting ideas at times. A lot of what we saw with Mark Ruffalo's character and Toni Collette's character, it felt like there was something of like a hierarchy of class on that ship. and we only saw like the tiniest amount of it, and that's what I was like, I want to see more of that. For the most part, I think the cast is great. I think it makes it a very enjoyable movie. There is a lot to kind of unravel with this film, obviously, and it does feel the most like Okja to me, and there does feel like there's a little bit more Snowpiercer that I think people aren't really noticing. But yeah, I had fun with it, along with the rollout, the release date, trailers, whatever it might be. I had my hopes set pretty low for this film, and I think I enjoyed it more than most people are. Mainly just because the minute that I see any film gets delayed, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I do think that a lot of times that means that the studio doesn't have a lot of faith in it, or they're scared to release it. And I think this one was probably a result of both. You have the election happening, and it was supposed to release much earlier than they originally did. So it makes me think like they probably shot this months before the election happened. Donald Trump gets elected, and now the film is released, and it's like so obvious who the film is trying to. He says that it's not him, but I think it's pretty obvious it's him.
Well, I mean, I think something to think about too is like, which I do. You said it's not. He says it's not him, and I somewhat believe him, but I think it's because he said it's basically you can apply it to really any world leader. And I know that in South Korea, like they had that they're like whatever they call their guy was like, hey, court martial for like a day, and everyone was like, what the hell is going on? And he stopped that after one day. It's crazy that like that happened in Bong's country, while he was making this movie, probably.
I think. Okay, I'll say this. I think Bong will deny it, but I think Mark is definitely doing it.
Yeah, because Mark does not like Trump, so I mean that's what he's gonna say.
Yeah, so you have that kind of thing there. Pattinson, I love as an actor. I think his breakout from like being in the Twilight movies, seeing him in like, I remember Good Time was the first movie I really noticed him in, post Twilight, and then every movie that he had after it, High Life, The Lighthouse, The King. Even Tenet, I remember being there from day one, and then the Batman was releasing. I got to see it a little early, and everybody asked me like, "Is he as bad as he is in Twilight?" And I was like, "Guys, he's a great actor. Like, just watch the other stuff that he's been in." So, I don't know. I've had faith in Pattinson. I love that he's having as much fun as he is here. But yeah, I really enjoyed Mickey 17. I need to revisit it. I think I might like it a little bit more upon a rewatch.
Yeah, it's funny with Pattinson. I was just thinking about it because kind of like fitting with like what Bong does with his movies. I think Pattinson always takes on different roles, and I was just thinking about it. This is his first comedy I think he's ever done, really, and I think he didn't. Oh, go ahead.
Have you seen Cosmopolis?
No, I'm not. That's a comedy?
It feels like it when you're watching it. It's definitely not, though.
Okay. No, I've not watched Cosmopolis. I heard that's not. Is it bad? I heard it's not that bad.
It's strange. If you like, it kind of feels like it's in the same realm of something like Megalopolis or Southland Tales. And that's like my second time dropping names on those movies, but it's and what I mean by that is just that they're saying so much by saying so little at the same time. It kind of feels like Adrian Brody's speech at the Oscars. Like you're just going on and on, but like there's nothing cohesive here that's holding it together. It's a lot of fun. I find it really funny. I find it to be really like just honest and very sincere, but it's very much the kind of thing I would say like has really funny moments, and I think Robert Pattinson is really funny in it.
Okay, and that was freshly off of Twilight too, which is pretty impressive that he even had that back then, kind of a thing.
I think it's between.
Well, it's between them.
I think it's between Breaking Dawn 1 and 2. I think it came out between them.
Fun fact, I have maybe watched the first Twilight, and I've like been planning. I might even record it. I might get like super wine drunk and just like watch all the Twilight movies because I think that'd be really fun.
The first one isn't bad. I think the first one has so much style and like flair to it that it's like almost impossible to ignore how much fun it is.
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, and 5 don't really have the same effect as the first one, but the first one has so much style. It's very stylized. I think the first one's fun.
Well, I even read up on it, and I hope because people are throwing this term around there, especially with the Thunderbolts trailer coming out. But I'm almost positive that Twilight, the first movie, was basically an indie film. I want to say it was almost funded independently, or like a lot of it was. I think the budget was only like $30 million, which just thinking with how like massive Twilight is, that's such a small budget. Hold on, my dog's sorry about that. But yeah, but I also think that's why you think the first one feels so stylized. I love how I literally just read up on this. But because basically after they saw the success of the first movie, that's when the studios got involved. And they're like, oh, okay, this is going to be like our new blockbuster kind of a thing. So let's make these look like blockbuster films. You know what I'm saying?
Funny enough, I feel like the rest of them don't look very good.
Exactly. It's exactly what I'm saying. It's like less stylized. And the crazy part is, and this is like a huge talking point, is the fact that Catherine Hardwicke literally gave them the best movie of the series and really had her own touch on it, her own flair. And she never directed another one. She only directed the first one, and they didn't bring her back for anything. I think she's the only female to direct any of those movies, which is crazy.
It like they were showing it on 35 millimeter pretty close to me. I want to say like 2 years ago around Halloween time. And I did not think I was going to have a good time because I remember thinking that they were not great. I remember thinking like, you know what, I'll just go revisit it, see if it's fun. And I had a blast. Like the audience I watched it with was freaking killing it. It was so much fun.
It's awesome. I was going back to Mickey 17. I think, I don't know if you saw my review, but I think I compared it to one particular movie that I really love, and I actually have it on VHS back there. That it basically, like you said, you kind of don't know where the movie's going at the beginning, and like the whole hey, it's gonna be 17 versus 18 thing that also popped in my mind as well. But I compared it to Starship Troopers because kind of what they do at the end is they're like, these creepers aren't aliens, we're aliens to them, right?
Yeah.
We don't know if these are, actual, I guess, enemies of us. So I was like, oh, that's what they're doing. And then, oh man, it's creeper overload at the end. a whole lot of creeping. So
I think it kind of plays
I thought
into
that was an
theme of
interesting
colonialism
angle
as well. Like a lot of what's happening there. It's very clear, like we're aliens to them, and it's very much like you're saying, and it plays into that quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think it is a very good comparison between like what I don't know what Mark Ruffalo is using Robert Pattinson for, and basically what they're also going to do to these creepers, right? They are the rich, and they see everything below them, everything that's necessarily not them, as expendables. Like the creepers are expendables. It doesn't matter that it's a whole civilization of these beings that you've never met before. They're on something that I want. I want this, so I'm going to by any means obtain it the way I want it to be. That's exactly, how they use Mickey. So I see what what Bong was going for. And I also guess the books is like not humorous at all. I think it's Mickey 7 and like Bong added all the humor.
Yeah. One thing that I remember thinking about when the film was coming out was the trailers didn't look very promising to me. Not because I thought the film was going to be bad, but because I knew that Bong Joon-Ho was just who he was and he makes great movies. So when I saw the trailer for it, I was just like, oh, they don't know how to market this at all. They have no idea how to market this. The trailer looks like it's trying really hard to appeal to like the humor side of it. And yeah, it's got some humorous moments, but it just felt like tonally, like the trailer didn't know what it was. The studio probably didn't know what it was. And I actually had a friend recommend to me, he said, watch the international trailer because it adds a lot more intrigue to it. And that's what I wanted more of. But yeah, I don't know. I think once I know what it is, now that I know what it is, I might enjoy it a little bit more. I think there's just some movies that like before you see it tonally, if you don't know what the film is going for and you don't know what to expect, it can be kind of difficult to really enjoy it, especially with a film that has themes and concepts that are as heavy-handed as this.
Yeah,
I liked it.
There's so much going on too. There's so many themes that he's trying to do, and I get their perspective of not like how do we market this because it's trying to say so much. So like, what do we necessarily focus on? Like, what is the main like drive of this movie? Like, how do we present Mickey in these trailers? What does Mickey want? Kind of a thing. But then also, do you like comedies?
I do. I really like. I mean, like, I really like the comedy in Mickey 17. It's just one of those
Okay.
things where, like, I wasn't expecting it to be that funny. I guess I just didn't expect to lean into it that much. And so it's one of those things where I wanted to really like it as much as like everybody else is, but I also see a lot of people are like really dogging on this too. So it's kind of a mixed bag for me. I am leaning more towards the liking part of it, but I remember the first hour I was just like, man, where's this story going?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of comedies. Like everyone who listens to this podcast knows that. It's because if it doesn't make me laugh, then I'm like, this is a flaw of the movie. Like you're failing right now. I'm not enjoying this. And I think there's this weird plot point that is supposed to be entirely comedy, but it's kind of a big element of this movie. It's the whole like why they got on the ship, why Steven Yeun and Pattinson got on the ship in the first place was but they like borrowed money for like their macaroon business and it didn't work out. And then there's this like subplot, and this is like the only thing that really Steven Yeun is like involved with of the fact that like someone might come and like murder him.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are we doing here? And then also I found issue with how Naomi Aki and Stephen Young treat both versions of Mickey, like when there's two of them, or just him in general. Like I think Stephen Young's like a genuine like asshole to him, and I think they do try to redeem him so somewhat towards the end, maybe a little bit. It doesn't work on me, but then also there's the scene where like Naomi Aki's like, let me fuck both of them, which that's like I feel like a very I hate to say this. No, I'm not gonna say this, but it feels like something that can go viral, like memeable. Like, of course,
Mhm.
everybody wants two Robert Pattinsons, but for me, I had really big issue with that with her character. Um, I don't know.
That felt strange to me.
Yeah, she generally cares for him, and honestly, Naomi Aki's incredible in this movie. She's really commanding. She has a really good screen presence, opposite of Pattinson. But I don't necessarily know how her character at the end really felt about 17 or 18. I
Mhm.
knew how she felt about like the creepers and how she felt about Ruffalo and Tony Collette, but I wish that would have been, you know,
It's
um,
this movie has such a weird sense of humor, and I think that's where the humor is like I have issue with. Like that was a big part of it. I remember watching it, I was like, okay, this is fun, but I think there comes a point where it's just so like I've never seen this type of humor before, and it feels like you're totally trying to do something that just doesn't work for me. All the humor with everything surrounding Tony Collette and Mark Ruffalo's characters, where it's like so clearly like he's doing an impression of Trump, even if Bonk says he isn't. Mark Ruffalo definitely is. Tony Collette's doing something very subdued and a little bit more simple. It's still kind of dumb, but it still works a little bit better than history. But I think the reason that it doesn't work for me is because, like, yes, Trump is a funny person and it reminds me a lot of Trump, but I also hate Donald Trump. And
yeah.
so it just very quickly became like very, like, it rides the line of being annoying at times.
Yeah, because I guess if you're just doing an impression, like you know what's coming, so it can only like be so entertaining to you, especially if the person that it's replicating is not entertaining to you.
That's the thing, though, is
But
it doesn't really feel like he's doing an impression. It just kind of feels like he's the same type of person.
got
And
you.
so it's like not an impression, but you are doing a version of this. You are that kind of person in this movie. And it's so clear you're
That is
doing
the
that.
character, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say also one thing too that stuck out to me is um, with Pat. Oh, I totally forgot my train of thought. Shit. So sorry. But yeah, the humor. I don't know. It's like everything with the ketchup, like with the sauces,
Oh,
Tony Collette. I'm like,
it's just
it's not. Oh, this is what I was gonna say. Oh, this is what I was gonna say. There's also like this other subplot. Like I said, there's so many different characters and stuff that comes in, and you're gonna be able to, obviously see like stuff like this bothers me is when characters aren't necessarily there for the entire runtime. Is there's like another girl that kind
oh
of
yeah.
sits down with Pattinson and has like a kind of heart to heart and almost like kisses him, and then she has this like standoff with Naomi Aki, and then she's gone. You like don't see her the rest of the movie.
Her character just completely disappears, yeah.
I'm like, what was that? Like, where is she at? And I
And I
think
liked her a
like,
lot. That's what I didn't understand. I was like, where did she go? I was like, your character was fun.
Yeah, because I thought she was what I wanted Naomi Aki to be. Because Naomi Aki, we are like told that she is part of the military, right? But she doesn't, in my opinion, necessarily feel like she's part of the military. And I think if she did feel like she was more, then if watching her character arc or her character change throughout the movie would have been way more interesting. I think that she just has a gun and she's tough, so it's like, oh, fighting military woman, which is cool and everything. But I never got those vibes from her. And I think if she was maybe a little bit more harsh towards Mickey and sometimes that would have been better for me. I don't know, because she absolutely is like head over heels for him, but I don't know. To me, that's just boring. I don't know. Relationships are more interesting if they're not picture perfect, which I would hope everyone's relationships are picture perfect out there, but it doesn't make for a good film. So,
yeah.
dude, the more I talk about this, I had it at a 4. I'm thinking like 3.5 now. It's better than Okja, I think.
I was sitting at like a 3 for the first half of the movie. I got up to a 3.5 by the end of it. I felt like the second half really picked up for me, but it definitely does feel a lot of what we're talking about just in general. Like it feels like a lot of those issues are very prominent for me.
Yeah. I don't know. Are you going to go rewatch it in theaters?
I think I am. I hope so.
Okay.
I've been very busy lately, so it's been one of those. It's been kind of like difficult, but I think I've had a little bit more time to sit on it than most people have. I've had 2 weeks, I think, and it's just now released in the US. So a little less time than most people, I guess, for most. I think it was released this weekend. Yeah, 3 days.
Yeah,
so
this past weekend.
I've had 2 weeks to sit on it. You've had 4 days, I think, 3 days.
I saw it on Thursday. I always try to see the new releases on Thursday. So yeah, I've had like 2 or 3 days to sit on it. So
it's definitely been a lot more. I think about a lot more now. Like the first 2 days, I was like, I kept thinking about it, but not in the way that I was like examining. I was just like, that was fine. Because people kept asking about it. I was like, that's fine. It was a good movie. But then the less people talked about it, I was like, okay, like I'll really examine this, think about what I didn't like, what I did like. And yeah, most of it is just like tonally, I think it's a very unbalanced movie.
There's just a lot to take in. So I feel like automatically that just, has a rewatch on my schedule because of that reason. Yeah. And also, I think it does. I think it does work to rewatch it because there's not a whole lot coming out in March. Like, am I going to watch Mickey 17 or the new Snow White movie? Maybe Mickey 17 again.
I'm usually very open and like very like I like to watch movies that are saying a lot and being, I guess, very like just saying a lot. Like Megalopolis is a big one. I would say like if you're on board for it, great. If you're not, you're probably not going to enjoy it. But this feels a little bit more like it's taking itself more seriously than a movie like that. And so because of that, it feels like you're taking yourself more serious, but it doesn't feel like you are based off of everything surrounding you. Yeah. Whereas a movie like Megalopolis up front, it's kind of like, we're going to have fun. We're going to have fun and we don't care.
It's a tricky line. It's a tricky line what Mickey 17 is trying to do, especially with so much comedy in it. You know, how serious are we supposed to take any of this? But speaking of serious, I'm dead serious about your collection back there. I am a big old fan of it. Is there any movie on there that what we do for our recommendations, because we're inching towards the end of the episode, you can recommend any movie you want that you just think is a good movie that maybe people haven't seen or something you watched recently that you would recommend. You can even do more than one. Sometimes people do like 4 or 5 movies.
I'm going to look through my letterbox for a second because I have a list of movies I own, and I think that would probably be a little bit easier than walking over there.
Okay, I'll do mine real quick. I watched it's so tough though because I know Black Bag is coming out, and have you seen the reviews for that? It's like 95%. I'm like, holy shit.
Everyone's really liking it, it seems like. Yeah,
Dan watched it. He said honestly it surprised the hell out of him. I think he gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. But I was thinking like maybe I should watch all of Steven Soderbergh. Like maybe I could do that, but Steven Soderbergh has so many movies. So I think that'll be a little bit difficult. He literally just came out with Presents,
Yeah.
So I rewatched Logan Lucky, and that I think I have a really
fun movie.
I think I have a big soft spot for that because I grew up watching NASCAR. And it was really fun for me. For anybody who doesn't know, basically it's a really simple. Logan Lucky is just like an Ocean's 11 movie, but with NASCAR. That's all it is. And it stars Channing Tatum, Adam Driver, and Daniel Craig, and they're just trying to steal money from a motor speedway. Also, Jack Quaid is in it, which was a surprise. And then I'm trying to think.
I forget he's in that movie.
Katie Holmes is also randomly in that movie. But what I like for my dad is like they do a really good job of doing little NASCAR race driver cameos. Like they'll be like police officers or security guards. And growing up on watching that, I was like, oh, I know who that guy is. I know who that guy is.
Yeah.
But they did a really good job of incorporating that. But I mean, Daniel Craig, a lot of people thought he should have been nominated for Queer. He's like an amazing actor, and this is him being like a southern drawl, which
he's having a lot of fun in this movie. I love Logan Lucky.
Is that Benoit Blanc? No, Benoit Blanc is Benoit Blanc Southern?
Benoit Blanc, I think he's supposed to be. It's very subtle though.
I was saying his name sounds very French for being like a southern drawl kind of guy. But yeah, that's a fun movie. I had a really great time. Channing Tatum, like any interesting different performance that I could see out of him, I'm really welcome to it. But I'm also just a sucker for Adam Driver. I mean, you talked about Megalopolis a lot. I really like Adam Driver. He plays like, and the thing that's funny too is my dad, which makes sense why I watch NASCAR. My dad is from the South. He is from Kentucky. So I put this in my Letterboxd review, but there's this one scene, and a lot of these people are not the smartest. And I've been in Kentucky, not saying my dad's not the smartest, but there are people out there that, some screws are, you got to catch them, put them back in, kind of a thing. But there's one thing that's one of the characters did, and they're just like describing a road that they're driving on, and like they came from one place they went to the other place. But just when they talk about it, they name like 6 different roads they went on. They went right on I-10. They went forward on E3. My dad does that shit all the time. He's like, "What road did you take to get from here to here to here?" I'm like, I don't know. I just, GPS that. I'm so sorry. So that really reminded me of him, which I kind of loved, and I told him to watch it. But yeah, really entertaining movie. I mean, just a fun watch. It's something revolutionary. Like I said, it's Ocean's 11.
It's a fun movie though. I remember watching that in theaters, and like I had a blast with it. I go back to it like every few years or so, and I always feel like I bring it up to people, and I'm like, it looks dumb, but it is the funniest thing in the world. I promise you.
Yeah, great rewatch.
Yeah, Adam Driver's just hitting it out of the park lately. I love to see him in anything.
What is he in next?
He's in a play right now on Broadway.
Okay.
But I know that he's gearing up for something pretty soon. I know that there was an announcement with him recently where he got cast in something, but I can't remember what. He is
Heat 2.
Paper
That's
Tiger,
the big old rumor that he's gonna be Heat 2. Yeah,
rumored. Father, Mother, Sister, Brother. The Jim Jarmusch film.
Oh yeah, I forgot about this. I love Jim Jarmusch. He's the only lovers left alive, right? Yeah, that's a great movie.
Great film. Yeah.
Oh, and Patterson. So he's teaming up with him again after Patterson. Okay.
My recommendation. It's a 2007 film directed by Nacho Vigalondo called Time Crimes. This is a great film. It is a time travel movie, and my experience with this film, I watched it. I want to say. Must have been like almost midnight. And so I started thinking this is a short movie. I can get through it pretty quickly. I like a good time travel movie. This will be fun. And it is the most stressful thing I think I had seen in a while. It is a lot of fun, but it is also like just, you think to yourself, like, how can this guy dig himself into a bigger hole? And it's just everything that he can do does happen. So it's been a while since I've seen it. Umbrella just put out a Blu-ray for it recently. So I bought it and I want to revisit it again soon, but it is a lot of fun. I remember when I watched it, it was on HBO Max. So I'll find out what it's on before we finish up here. But
yeah, I think mine's on HBO Max as well. I think.
It looks like it's on Hoopla for free, but you can rent it. Amazon, Apple TV, whatever you might use. If you remember a film called Colossal that Anne Hathaway was in like 2017.
I never watched it, but I very much remember the trailer.
So the filmmaker that did that, Nacho Vigalondo, this was one of his first films.
Time Crimes. Oh, okay, I got you. It's funny that you mentioned a time travel movie because I finally for the first time watched, because I went on vacation to the Bahamas. As people who have stayed this long in the podcast know that I wasn't here last week because of that reason. But I didn't watch a whole lot of movies because I was just relaxing. But you said don't start anything on the plane. I started the movie on the plane, but I was just like locked in. And then I finished it that night. So I hate that I had to stop it, but I finished it that night. But it was a lot of. I almost recommended it for my recommendation, but I found out that, like in Letterboxd over a million people have seen it. I'm like, okay, it's that popular. But I watched About Time for the first time.
Oh, it's a huge movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and a time travel movie, and it's a I guess not even it's a romance film, not even rom com, romance film, and it just does not go the way you think it's gonna go with a time travel premise, and I really enjoyed that. But yeah, solid movie. I was like 4.5 on that. I really enjoyed it.
I want to revisit that movie. It's been a while since I've seen it, and I do remember like watching it. I was pretty late to the party on that one. I remember really liking it though.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's a good romance film, and then Rachel McAdams is in it, and I'm a sucker for Rachel McAdams, so it helps out a lot, helps the film out a lot. Also,
She's great.
who else is in it? Bill Nye. I also love Bill Nye.
Yeah, he's awesome in it. Domhnall Gleeson, pretty good too.
Honestly, I didn't say him because I didn't know how to pronounce his name. Domhnall.
You know, I actually met someone Irish pretty recently, and they told me his name is actually pronounced like Donald, like the
Donald.
word, like the name Donald, but it's just like you don't say the M, it's like Donald. And then he also told me that I don't know how true this is, just because actually he said that Barry Keoghan's name is Keoghan, like Barry Keoghan. That's how you pronounce that name. But you go and watch interviews with Barry Keoghan, and he says it
Yeah,
Keoghan. So it's like, I
I
don't know
would
if
go
this
against
Irish guy
that.
is just
I
blowing
say
smoke up my ass.
Dan's really like particular about he's very much like, hey, take the time just to look up someone's name, which I respect that. So and he pronounces it Keoghan, so I'm like, I have faith that he's correct on that. But or he's oh, you know who's randomly in that movie for three like not too long? Margot Robbie's randomly in it, and
Yeah.
like it's from
I remember that when
2011.
Remember when Wolf of Wall Street came out, everybody was like noticing her for the first time, and I was like, she was in About Time.
Yeah, she's like that was such a surprise. I was like, what? Like, why is she here? Yeah,
She's not in
2013.
it
So
very long.
this would have been right before the Wolf of Wall Street, or did Wolf of Wall Street come out this exact same year?
I think Wolf of Wall Street was 2013.
Okay, so the same year. But I was
2014,
like,
it could be the same.
yeah, that was before like Focus. When did Focus come out? I'm just tapping random stuff on Letterboxd. 2015. So yeah, this was one of her very first movies. But yes, for sure, solid. Yeah, third recommendation there, everybody. About Time, really good. But Van, hey, you made it through your first episode of Goodwill Podcasting.
Of course, yeah.
Hope you enjoyed your time. Thanks for coming on so early in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. If you want, before we say goodbye, did you want to maybe tell people, about yourself, like where they can find you on social media, if they want to follow you anywhere, keep track of what you're watching?
Social media, I have a link tree on almost all my stuff, but it is Alejandro XPADI. Van watches movies on most platforms. You can find me on like Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Those are the three main ones I use. Also use Letterboxd, but I have a link tree on almost all of my socials. So if you find me on one of them, you can almost pretty quickly find me on the others.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm telling you guys, like the Twitter's on fire. Like Van's
Dude,
on a run right now.
I'm such an addict to Twitter. It's so bad.
It's good though. Like I like following you because I don't follow a whole lot of people, but like I like following people. That's the thing, man. Like doing social media. I've never been a social media person. And to try to gain some traction, you kind of have to be.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to always post like this is my Taco Bell. This is what I'm watching today, kind of a thing. I'm trying to get used to that.
Yeah,
But
it's fun.
It's funny. I tweeted something last night, which I thought was funny. But basically, you look up the one image from the host, and it is like a picture of like the family, like all smiling together at a table. And I said that was like Bong Joon-Ho's cruelest joke because that's not in the movie anywhere, and it's just like the movie's like pretty dark. Yeah, and that's like when you look at like Letterboxd and you look at the the banner above head, it's literally all five of them just smiling at the camera. I'm like, this is not the movie.
Do you have the Letterboxd, like, is it patron feature? You can change like the banner and the poster. Yeah, as long as I pay for it.
Addicting, very addicting. But I
also
believe
want to support them.
That's true. It's only like $50 a month too, which is not bad at all. Also, I saw Carson Runquist talking about this, like at A24 membership. Like A24 membership is really good because it's only $50 a year, and you get like a free screenplay. I got a free like a $60 free screenplay book for my birthday for Under the Skin. Paid for itself.
I'm a big collector of like I like the screenplay.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, you have other movies. You have other movies, right?
I got all of them lined up right up there. You can see the barcodes.
That's like, it's funny because they always advertise that too, because they show all their DVDs in stacks and it looks very nice. And I'm like, Van literally has that.
I posted a picture of it on Twitter, and I think they responded to it, or they responded to one of them. I can't remember which one, but I mean, all it really is just most of the time I'm just like sharing my collection, and then sometimes it just, for some reason, it goes viral as much as it does.
People like physical media because it's still sticking around.
I love it. I love it.
I will say next week, it's funny that we mentioned, or I recommended Logan Lucky, because I think next week, just for our listeners, me and Dan are going to be gone. I'm going on my last vacation of the entire year, which is sad because it's March, but I've gone on 2 big vacations in March, so I'm done for a long time. But I'm going to Nashville, and then Dan's still going to be at South by Southwest.
Yeah.
So Connor's actually going to talk about, I can't remember who he has on as a guest, but I think he's going to talk about the actual Ocean's movies, which I guess you have to include Ocean's 8. I always forget Ocean's 8 came out. Was that
I think
Soderbergh?
a lot of people forget. I don't know, actually. I don't think he did it.
Maybe not,
We're doing
because the reason.
Hour with Rock.
Oh, never mind. Oh, geez. Okay. Came out of nowhere there, Connor. My bad. My Rush Hour. Okay, never mind. I'm glad you came. Oh, okay. And he's gone. All right. My bad. I got to know this Ocean's 8.
Do you want to
Who directed it? It's got like Anne Hathaway, Sandra Bullock. Is it a woman?
It's a man.
Oh, man. Oh, female-led movie directed by a man. I don't know, guys.
Gary Ross.
Gary Ross. What has he directed?
The Hunger Games, the first Hunger Games. He's done
I
Free State of
knew
Jones and Pleasantville. Seabiscuit as well.
I don't know why he popped in my mind, but I was thinking of, I thought of a director from Hunger Games, but I thought Francis Lawrence, I think, is the one who directs the other ones.
Yeah.
Only the first film, because honestly, I rewatched Hunger Games.
Same person, yeah.
The first Hunger Games is horrible to look at. It's like cinematography
so
is
much
awful.
There's like the camera's shaking like the first like 30 minutes, like you can't see anything.
That's like one of my biggest pet peeves is shaky cam. It's like when Monkey Man came out last year, I was like, I love this. But especially towards the beginning, I was like, there's a lot of shaky cam going on. I was like, I need this to stop. And thankfully, at the end, it did.
I didn't mind the camera shaking so much in that movie, but there's a big thing that like didn't work for me there is that like there was a lot of moments where they would cut out like a frame to make like the action seem more intense, but the camera was moving so fast that like you would always see it.
Yeah.
It almost felt like a flaw, whereas other movies that the camera's a little bit more stable, it's a little bit easier to hide it, you know?
Yeah, I'm interested in Dev. I wonder when Dev's going to announce like a next project for him, because he had that, and then The Wonderful Life of Henry Sugar with the Wes Anderson short, I think was like right after that, and that was awesome. I love that short.
He's great. I love Dev Patel. Yeah. I love him in The Green Knight. Like strangely, like that's one of those movies that I think about. I'm like, dang, like he is so good in that.
I still haven't watched it. That's one of Dan's like all-time favorite movies. Loves that
incredible film.
But yeah, I guess we're talking about Rush Hour next week, everybody, with Brock. So look forward to that. But Van, thanks so much again, man, for coming and joining us.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, but until next week, everybody, until that episode, please, this week, go outside, sit on a park bench, watch some movies, talk to your friends, and we'll see you then. Peace out, everybody.